Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is the still very engaged Mr. Andrew Meadows.
I am the engaged Andrew Meadows. I am almost to my peak form if we were talking about Dragon Ball Z. But anyways, I am here. We're here on a Monday. Good Monday, and we are here with our friend, Mr. Dan Bramel. How are you, sir?
Happy Monday.
Did I pronounce your last name right?
You did. You did very well.
Excellent.
It's good to be back. I'm excited to be here to talk about this and officially eat crow in a public forum on my opinion on things, but I'm excited. Thanks for having me on.
Ooh, we're coming in with some spicy takes out the gate. I mean, the listeners know what this is about, but in case they can't, read the title before they start listening to the episode, we're talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League. As promised, on our look ahead to 2021, we talked a lot of shit about that trailer, and then we thought, you know what? It'd be a good idea to assemble the same crew, bring Dan back to the podcast, take a few beers, and just have an evening to ourselves to talk about the 4-hour monstrosity that is Zack Snyder's Justice League. So,
or maybe not a monstrosity.
Or maybe not a monstrosity. I meant more monstrosity in terms of the duration, in terms of the length. 4 hours is pretty atypical.
It is a giant,
films.
Yes.
So it's a behemoth. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. It's an investment of time.
A titan.
Certainly.
A titan, you might.
A titan, yes.
I hear Peter Jackson's re-releasing Lord of the Rings, and it's going to be an 8-hour episodes. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3 of all 8 hours. Peter Jackson.
It's just the assembly cut, literally all of the footage that was shot put together in chronological order.
That's it.
And it's going to be great. It will be followed by a Hobbit 14-hour cut. Followed by the Beatles 70-hour cut.
The life of the Beatles.
So yeah, I mean, it's a lot. And there's a lot to unpack with Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think we can, unequivocally say that much. But it's also a film, I think, that, the production of it is obviously, I guess at this point, legendary. I actually I didn't listen to the whole thing because, I had better things to do with my life, but I did listen to snippets from our coverage of the 2017 film Justice League as half directed by Zack Snyder and then half directed by Joss Whedon. I listened to our episode, which was very early in the podcast tenure, I think episode 15 maybe, and we weren't too kind to it, unsurprisingly, because it's not a very good film, to say the least. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, the fun fact that we had for that episode, I don't know if we did fun fact in an official capacity on that, but I feel like it must have come up, but I didn't actually listen to this part. Mustache Gate with Justice League. You guys remember the whole thing with everyone coming back for reshoots, and then Henry Cavill had to come back still sporting his Mission Impossible mustache.
Couldn't shave it off.
Yeah, he wasn't allowed to shave it off contractually or something, or Paramount was very petty about it. So they filmed all this shit with his mustache still intact as Superman, and they later CG'd over his face to make him mustacheless, and it looked terrible. I'm sure we talked about that on that one, and that was a very fun fact in and of itself. So I can't wait to hear what fun facts this crew has assembled to talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League. I have a couple of my own, but I want to see if mine cross over with anything that anyone else is bringing to the table. So, Andrew, Dan, if you guys have Zack Snyder's Justice League fun facts, I'm just going to call it the Snyder Cut from here on out. I mean, it's the Snyder Cut for everyone. You know what I mean? So Snyder Cut fun facts. I'm all ears at this point. Whoever wants to bring something, go for it.
My first fun fact, depending on how y'all's fun facts go, is if you watch the Snyder Cut and you really like the Snyder Cut, or if you're new to the Snyder Cut, you now have the option to watch this film in black and white.
Justice is gray.
Not only, if you maybe you don't like muted colors, and maybe you just like no color at all. Now is your option to watch fucking black and white, the truest form of Zack Snyder's. I feel like that's what he envisioned.
I think he did say at one point, like obviously is putting that out because he wanted to put it out. But I do think he said he did kind of envision it in like black and white. And like, I think even Zack Snyder, who has very over the top sensibilities, realized a major studio is not going to release a tentpole superhero film, let alone anyone, a film about the Justice League in black and white in theaters. So it was kind of just like, it's just kind of a pipe dream. It's not going to happen. But sometimes wishes come true, dreams come true. You can release 4-hour
to be
movies
fair,
in black and white.
In its defense, I won't watch it again in black and white. But to be fair, I think it would probably
plays fine.
Yeah, it'd probably hold up in black and white. I think you're almost there in the.
I mean, the difference is probably pretty negligible.
Right.
That's probably why. Not losing a lot of visual value or whatever. But is it safe to say we all watched the Snyder Cut as it was originally delivered on HBO Max and
in color,
it's muted colors?
Yes.
Technically in color, but muted colors. Okay. All right. Well, we can revisit the question. I mean, Andrew already answered it, but we can revisit the question of whether we want to watch it again in black and white. Maybe when we talk about the movie. For my money, I'm going to say probably not at this point, but certainly that is something that we can tie into our conversation of the quality of the film, whether we're eating crow or not. Whether we have to go back on our feelings and apologize to Mr. Snyder. We'll have to just wait and see on that front. But Dan, what do you have? Andrew, I don't want to cut you off. I assume.
No, I have other fun facts. I'll keep it in my pocket.
Bring them. Oh, okay. Well,
I'll keep it in my pocket depending on how you guys go.
We'll keep it balanced. Dan, what do you got?
I will. I'll bring in the sober fun fact that it's fun in the sense that it's very sweet and it's very meaningful. That I thought it was really sweet that the film was dedicated to Autumn. For those of you who don't know, the reason that Zack Snyder initially dropped off of the project was because his daughter tragically passed away to suicide, and this film was actually dedicated to her. And I think that was a nice way to bring it full circle, that he stepped away for her and he finished it for her. So kudos to that. Kind of I don't mean to bring the mood down, but at the end of the day, we live in a real world and we produce art in a real world to reflect that real world. And I thought it was pretty sweet and pretty powerful that he. It
was that actually when that dedication frame came up, or whatever you want to call it. It was actually pretty sobering to because I mean I look back on Justice League and I often forget the reasons why it turned out the way it did. You know what I mean? And when that came up, it's like you say, it's sobering, but it's also touching. It was a nice thing to put in there for sure. The dude's been through a lot.
I mean, for all of my faults with Zack Snyder, and I would say there are many. I think certainly the circumstances around the production of Justice League and the reason he had to step away is just awful. It's the kind of thing you wouldn't wish on anyone, because it's just a kind of unfathomable circumstance to kind of have to live through. The death of your kid. It's just not anything anyone should have to deal with, and of course it happens. But here, this is a kind of unprecedented situation where, this film was kind of willed into existence, by memes and by Twitter and everything. But for him, for the man himself, for Zack Snyder, it is still personal. It's not a meme to him. It's a project that he obviously put a lot of himself into and had to step away for very personal reasons. And so for him, the opportunity to come full circle and kind of close the loop, I think is kind of a neat kind of aspect. And, so... Yeah, I think to kind of have that recognition of kind of why he's doing it, who he's doing it for. I agree. It was a nice touch overall. So sobering, yes, indeed, sobering. Yes,
and he's
indeed.
A real fucking dude. Zack Snyder's a real fucking person. It's easy to shit on people and not think about that sometimes. He's fucking,
especially on the internet.
So hats off to you, dude. You went through a fucking hurricane.
Hell and back.
That's it.
So, well, I will, I guess maybe piggyback off that in a way. I have a couple, I guess like dual fun facts, I guess. Just basically because Zack Snyder stepped away from the project because of those personal circumstances, Joss Whedon came in the door to whip up the script and ended up reshooting I think a rather significant chunk of the film, which was then incorporated into the theatrically released product that we got, the one we all know and love. Just kidding, it sucks still. I haven't changed my mind since 5 minutes ago or whatever. But, Zack Snyder has said that he, to this day, has never seen the 2017 Joss Whedon cut of Justice League. And in fact, his wife, Deborah Snyder, and friend, he's listed as friend, fellow director Christopher Nolan, advised him to never see it as it would, quote unquote, break his heart. And I think that's probably true because, it's one of those things. If you put a lot of work into something and, you have a very specific vision for something and then someone comes in and chops it up to bits, reshoots some of it so that Flash is falling on Wonder Woman's boobs at one point. And you're just, oh my God, what is this fucking guy doing? You know what I mean? Like, I can imagine that would be a very, very frustrating experience to have to witness. And so the end result of that is, although this cut, I would argue, is not obviously what we would have gotten had Zack Snyder taken his project to completion, as it was intended to in 2017. This version contains no shots that were part of the reshoots from Joss Whedon.
Refused. I read online that he refused to use any of them.
Which I think makes sense because he shot clearly enough footage for at least 4 hours. I mean, I'm sure he shot well more than what the 4 hours we even got here was. So he had plenty to work with from his own stuff. But of course, that didn't stop him from doing some other reshoots of his own. But
and
we'll hit on that later. But
it does go without. It does go with saying that we no longer have a mustache gate.
Yes. I think that was probably the fine point of what I was building to is, by virtue of the fact that we're losing the Joss Whedon stuff, we are also losing the horrifying face version of Superman, with the teeth just jutting out. Oh, it's just awful. Stuff that gives kids nightmares. And the movie, if you recall, the movie opened with that. It's like cell phone footage of like Superman trying to be heroic. And it's like, what's wrong with your face? So, yes, this film may have flaws. It may be too long, whatever. We'll talk about it, but it does not have that awful CG faced Superman in it. So, there's absolutely one thing in its column. It's got some other CG wonkiness that we'll talk about, but hey, it doesn't have that. It does not have that. So that's what I got. I'm fresh out of fun facts. So I kind of just swept them all onto one continuous thread there for everyone. But I'm all ears. I'm ready to. I mean, we're going to talk nothing but Justice League and mostly DC stuff on this episode. So if we got more fun facts for Zack Snyder's Justice League, keep them coming. I'm ready for them. Anyone got anything else?
No, I was going to say no mustache gate. So that was my
mustache
pocket.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right, so we got there. I don't think I really totally stole your thunder. You were able to bring it out in front. So I got nothing. Dan, you got anything else?
I'm actually looking right now, and apparently there is an unintended reference to the Halo video games. It's a symbol on Deathstroke's sword, apparently. Was created by him for Halo some 20 years ago. So
they stole it.
Yeah, because they stole
Good
it
God,
from
is Halo that old?
Yeah, because they stole it, Ra's al Ghul's symbol for a fan-made Halo symbol. So, what do you know?
Okay.
That's all I got. Dan, that's all you got? Dan's thumbs up. Nom noms.
All right. Everyone is fresh out of fun facts, which means that it's time to talk some news. Fair warning, there is a lot of news here. This is the first time we're doing a traditional episode with Dan, so we'll see if we get a little too stuck in the weeds on some of these things. But they're all thematically related to Zack Snyder's Justice League in some way, and I think that will become apparent certainly after we get to the third piece of news moving forward. But I did want to start in a very interesting place. Joss Whedon, very heavily involved in the theatrical version of Justice League, and since then, Joss Whedon has been a subject of a lot of controversy. Basically, Ray Fisher, who plays Cyborg in both the theatrical cut, although very minimally and a lot more extensively in this cut, accused Joss Whedon of basically being racist, of basically cutting his role down to nothing. I think he said that. I I think there's maybe like a black family in like a scene that Joss Whedon like tried to cut them out of the scene, like pull them out of the scene. Some pretty heinous things. And so it became a source of an internal investigation for WB.
Oh, wow.
Ultimately, WB didn't really come down hard on Whedon or anything. Like they didn't find any wrongdoing, etc., something like that. But Joss Whedon was, throughout this investigation happening, working on a television show for HBO called The Nevers. And some point, Joss Whedon was subsequently pulled off of this show called The Nevers. So he departed it, quote unquote, for because of this year of unprecedented challenges. Obviously, he said that in 2020. There was lots of unprecedented challenges in 2020. One of those unprecedented challenges was the fact that he was subject to workplace harassment on prior projects. There's been a lot of stuff that came out from Charisma Carpenter, who worked with him on Buffy and Angel, which was validated by a lot of the women that worked on those shows, and they were supported by a lot of the men that worked on those shows.
Yikes.
So anyway, we got a trailer for The Nevers, which is technically still created by Joss Whedon. I really am not sure how heavily involved he actually is in the final product. I mean, I think once he was removed, creative control shifted elsewhere, and they're certainly not advertising it with any reliance on him being involved. But he still obviously was related to some extent. But anyway, that's your first thematic connection to Zack Snyder's Justice League is
The Nevers
Joss Whedon's career since has not gone very well, is what we'll say about it.
And that's a shame too. I'm not going to say it's a shame, because if he's a bad dude, then he's a bad dude. But God damn it, I like Firefly. Firefly's a cool show.
Yeah, I mean, as is the case with many things, you can be a shitty person and still make good things, or be talented at something like that. Like, it's not obviously impossible for that to happen. Sometimes it's difficult to reconcile that. It's tough to look back on even something like Buffy and Angel, and shows that Buffy particularly is the only one that I watched, but I really like Buffy, and Firefly is great. The Avengers, his work on the Avengers still stands up. You know what I mean? Age of Ultron less so, but it's gotten better with the benefit of everything else after it making it look better. But it sucks. But anyway, Joss Whedon is where he is. He's off in a corner, maybe banned forever. We'll see what happens. It's Hollywood after all, so probably not. But The Nevers, we did get the trailer for it, so why don't we at least talk about that now? A series coming to HBO later this year. Probably something that we very briefly previewed on the 2021 episode, but I don't think we really had a whole lot of details, maybe beyond a plot synopsis. Definitely no footage at that point. So what'd you guys think about this trailer? Anything that would excite you, interest you in watching?
I thought it looked. I don't know. I think it kind of looks shitty. A little bit shitty. I'm not.
A little bit shitty.
A little bit shitty.
Okay.
I probably won't be watching it, which feels good knowing after. I mean, I'm sure other people are creating it or what have you or whatever. But I watched the trailer and I was not impressed, and Joss Whedon's attached to it in some capacity. I feel. I don't know. It just didn't look very good. Joss Whedon not attached. I don't care. It just kind of looks shitty.
Yeah. So at a quick glance, he wrote and directed the pilot, directed the second episode, directed the fifth episode. So his work is still going to be on display. Okay, so whether or not their marketing is involvement, he was still clearly involved. So yes, feeds into your point.
It sounds like it might be. It sounds like it might be an interesting. I don't know. I didn't get enough of the premise. Or I guess these people are mutants in some capacity or something. They have special talents. They've been touched by something or someone, and they have abilities now, and the world's shitting on them. So it sounds like it might be interesting, I guess, but it didn't do a whole lot for me. It just kind of looked contrived. If that's a good way to put it.
It's Victorian era X-Men is probably how I would.
Yeah, that's what it looks like, right?
Okay, Dan, what do you think? The Nevers, anything for you?
That's about what I read from it. I really like I'm really into right now urban fantasy or Victorian era steampunk urban fantasy. So I'm not against the idea of whether it's magic or special abilities, whatever you want to call it. I think that's a cool premise, but it's a premise we saw before in some respects with Carnival Row, where you had similar idea there with fey creatures living amongst a Victorian-esque, steampunk-esque society. But yeah, I'm kind of with Andrew that I have no idea what's really going on. I don't have an idea from the premise. My vote on it is I'll give it a shot. Maybe I'll watch an episode or two.
It looked like they had like a Final Fantasy VII kind of thing going on there with like that blue orb thing that was like attached to the thing.
There's always an orb or a beam of light.
And they seem quite captivated by the orb of light at the end.
They do, which we didn't see, of course. But
what do you think, Colton?
Yeah,
what do you think about that?
I guess I agree. You know, the beyond the idea of powers in this era, I'm not really sure what's the thrust, what's the angle of the story. I don't know. I'm in the middle on this one. I didn't think it looked bad nor overly compelling. So it's kind of a wait and see approach for me. I think if the reviews shake out to be pretty positive on it, then it might kick my interest up a little bit. Otherwise, you know, amidst the mountain of TV shows and movies and stuff that we'll be able to watch this year, this may get lost in the shuffle potentially. But yeah, we'll see. It's kind of how I
and let me.
It, so.
I'll elaborate real quick on why I think it's contrived. Like you have the big guy, and you know what the big guy has? The big guy's got a big fucking chain wrapped around his shoulder for some reason. Like, okay, that's cool. I got to carry around this fucking chain that's around my shoulder, you know? And the guy from Dawn of the Dead, I don't know his name. Not Dawn of the Dead, fuck. Shaun of the Dead. Yeah.
Shaun of the Dead, Nick Frost. Yeah.
Like, if you're going for a serious role, I don't know if this is the one I bite off on, you know, and if you're going for a bad guy role, you know, because he was just, you know, kind of pulled me out of it. I'll cut your face to pieces.
Expect him to be goofy every time you see him.
Yeah, it's like if you want to go for a different kind of thing and kind of shake it up a little bit and what you're kind of tight cast into. I don't know if this is the one to start with. Then I don't know. That's it. The big guy really threw me out of it. The big guy with the chain. It's like, come on, man. You can do better costume design than a big guy with the chain. He can be big without the chain. Fuck. Anyways, I'm sorry. Back into the weeds.
Oh, you heard it here first. Let's move on because the counterpart to this piece of news is previewing what is next for Zack Snyder. So we saw what's next from Joss Whedon, and now we know what's next from Zack Snyder, and it is a Netflix film coming in May called Army of the Dead. Yeah, it's a short teaser, just about a minute long, not a whole lot here. May 21st is the official date on this one. Zack Snyder's going back to zombies after Dawn of the Dead, and he's heading to Las Vegas to do it. So, you know, I don't know if it was a little weird watching that after a recent visit there or not, but for you, Andrew. But what did you guys think about Army of the Dead, the official teaser?
I can confirm that slot machines don't spit out a shit ton of coins when you win.
What?
I can confirm that.
Well, you just didn't win enough, is obviously.
Yeah, I guess I did. This too did not tickle my fancy. I like Dawn of the Dead, to be fair.
Yeah.
I like the original. Yeah. And the remake was something that I had to watch on my PSP, my modded PSP, because I couldn't watch rated R movies. But I hacked the shit out of my PSP and I watched the shit out of that movie. I watched it a bunch of times.
So you didn't watch it on UMD. You watched it through some other illicit means.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That and The Exorcist were movies that I had to watch on my own accord, under the covers in the middle of the night. Yeah, so
one of them in
scared to death little baby Meadows watching his movies on his handheld device.
It's good nighttime entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. I was scared to death. That growing up in a religious family, Dan, you have no idea. When I watched The Exorcist, it shook me to my core. It was fucking terrifying. Yeah. Anyways,
I say to this day, no Ouija boards for me.
No Ouija boards.
I'm with you, Andrew. Though I like the Dawn of the Dead remake. I love the original. It's a classic piece of cinema. The remake was fun. It was good for what it was. This looks like maybe I'll watch it because it's on Netflix and I have Netflix, but I'm kind of with you. It's another zombie film. It's another. It's got Dave Bautista. I love him in Guardians of the Galaxy. But this, a James Gunn superhero film, this will not be. So,
yeah, I feel like, that Dawn of the Dead remake was pretty early, Zack Snyder, and I feel like with every subsequent Zack Snyder film, he just gets more over and over and over the top with his just sensibilities, and this to me reeks of it being a little bit of an overload on that. And I feel like the Dawn of the Dead remake was not that at all. I mean, it felt like a pretty well done, if relatively standard zombie movie. But at the time, you really couldn't have asked for more. And I think even probably revisiting it, it probably still holds up. This to me just feels like it might be a little too much. This is an unoriginal comment because I made the mistake of scrolling down in the YouTube comments. Someone pointed out that it very much just feels and looks like a Dead Rising movie, like video game Dead Rising. And I think that's totally accurate. And that game was awesome. And the first game was awesome. I didn't play any of the sequels, but so over the top. The concept to just pick up any weapons and just absolutely go to town on zombies, like that worked really well for a video game. I'm not sure if it's going to really work in this type of setting when you have to still craft a story around it and all that good stuff. So, but I expect this to be very violent, lots of mayhem. So maybe it'll be kind of enjoyable as like a breezy thing, and it's on Netflix. For
no harm, no foul,
or for worse.
Yeah.
It's not like we're spending extra money really to see something like this, and so it'll be obviously curious. I'm curious to see what Zack Snyder does. This film would have been shot before I think he had the opportunity to do anything with Zack Snyder's Justice League, but still very much coming off the back of his experience with that first film that he would have written and directed since Justice League. And so, I say there's a fair chance that we cover it. We'll see how it turns out, but it's not anything that really makes me super excited, but I will still note that I'm curious about it. I'm curious to give it a look. So yeah. That takes us to the next block of news, which is all going to be very thematically tied in together, because everything else from here on out is DC-related news, DC Comics-related news, and there's a lot of it. I've been holding back on some of this stuff for up to a month, if not over at this point. But there's only one trailer in the bunch, something that came out very recently, something that Dan alluded to just a few moments ago, and we'll close with that because I think that's probably the most exciting, maybe the most to chew on, and it's also the most recent, so it just kind of works out. But a lot of the other stuff is kind of news stuff, so I'll kind of run through it, hand it off for some comments and stuff like that. But I think a lot of this stuff we can, give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down and move on, and make sure we have plenty of time to talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League. So the first thing up is something that I imagine will excite Andrew, if nothing else. I'm not sure, Dan. I still don't know you well enough. I know you better than I did last time we recorded, but I don't claim to be, someone that knows you all that well. But I do know that Andrew is a big fan of the character John Constantine, and there is talks that a Constantine series is going to be in early development at HBO Max. And it will be J.J. Abrams executive producing it.
So, very nice. Do we have our Constantine?
No word on if Matt Ryan will be involved. I'm going to guess no, because he's probably still hanging out with the Legends over on the CW, and I imagine this is going to be a different take on the character, and they'll probably want to go in a different direction and, have it kind of be its own thing. Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I don't think JJ is involved in this, but he's working on a Justice League Dark series in which this show would tie into that.
Okay,
Constantine would
that's
probably
cool
be
shit
from both. So maybe the Justice League Dark comes out, then the Constantine series spins off from that, or vice versa, something like that. It's going to be a younger version of the character, focused more on the horror elements of the comics rather than the religious ones. And that's pretty much the information we have. Early development, HBO Max, but yeah.
Definitely yay.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Thumbs up for me. I am a Dan. Just to fill you in on my feelings on Constantine. I think Constantine is an awesome character. I'm a big fan of all things occult and just magic and stuff in general. It scratches particular itches, I guess. And the way Constantine explores it in the comics and everything else is super fascinating and super cool. He's a real troubled character and multifaceted and He's got dark humor, and I thought Matt Ryan did an excellent job of him in the CW. He's like,
he was originally in the NBC, I think, show that got one season, was canceled, and then they brought him back to the CW stuff later on.
Yeah, and for me, he totally embodies the character. I mean, if you pick somebody else, that's cool. You know what I mean? That's the first question is who's playing John. But big fan of the character, big fan of the series, and with it being on HBO Max, I'm hopeful that they especially with a Justice League Dark coming into it, I think that would be super cool. And yeah, no, I'm all in. I think that's awesome. Hope they spend a lot of time and care in picking the right person to embody the character. If it's a young John Constantine, it's going to be after all the stuff that happened at the orphanage and stuff. So it's going to be real cool.
Yeah, I'm on board with it. I grew up in a Catholic family, so as a kid, I didn't get a lot of exposure to the occult or the demon hunters and all that, which meant that as an adult, I was hungry for it. So I love anything to do with exorcists, demon hunting. I made the mistake of never seeing the Keanu Reeves film or the series that came out unconnected to the Keanu Reeves film. But for about the past year, I've been telling myself I really need to either read some of the comics or watch some of the shows, because that's a character that's always fascinated me as someone that's never been exposed to it.
Hold on one second, Dan. I have something for you. I had that for you, Dan. Next time you come over, I have the Hellblazer Original Sins graphic novel, and it deals with all sorts of craziness. And I mean, the art is fantastic.
I'm all for it. Anything horror is my bag, so I'm going to be... I'll definitely be watching this show's career with great interest, suffice to say.
All right. Well, there you have it. Constantine is on the way. For the record, the Keanu Reeves film is good. It's not a super accurate depiction of a comic book character, but it's still kind of good in its own right. So it's worth checking out.
Fair enough.
In addition to some reading material that you've been assigned. So,
totally noted.
All right. Next up is some casting news, some kind of out of left field casting news, and that is that we have a new Supergirl. Actress Sasha Calle is going to be playing the new Supergirl for the DC film universe, and she will make her first appearance in the upcoming The Flash film, with Ezra Miller reprising their role from Justice League. So it's the first Latina Supergirl ever in DC. She was chosen from more than 425 actresses who auditioned for the role. And I think she's most well known for her daytime Emmy-nominated role on the soap opera The Young and the Restless. So it's quite the step up, I would say, in terms of the caliber of project that she'll be working on. But I think that is to say, I don't think any of us have ever seen her in anything. Probably the first time we've heard her name mentioned. I may not have even said it correctly. It's entirely possible. But casting seems fine. Seems interesting. What are you guys' thoughts on a Supergirl popping up in Flash? This casting. Any comments you want to add?
Supergirl is the cousin of Superman, right?
That is correct. Kara Zor-El. She is the cousin of Superman who arrives in a pod a little bit later than Kal-El does,
because hers went off track, or
basically that's the idea. Obviously, there is a Supergirl TV show that has been airing for 4 or 5 seasons now with a very different Supergirl, and it's of middling to solid quality to sometimes bad quality, I guess you could say.
Typical CW.
It's the CW. You know what you're getting.
Further memo. Many love triangles. Drama,
but but I think if nothing else, that certainly has popularized the character of Supergirl in a big way. I think even the same thing happened with the Flash. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, we'll be getting a Flash film that's had like 19 false starts, but the TV show The Flash has been very successful, and I think that
first 2 seasons were strong as hell. I like the first 2 seasons; they're legitimately good.
Yeah. I mean, it's turned into usual CW quality stuff at a certain point. I think we can safely say that. But, these are the kind of things that have built excitement and built kind of audiences for these characters. So it's kind of cool to see, a different Supergirl, kind of take flight in something like The Flash is what I would say about it. But Dan, what do you think?
I don't have a lot of opinions other than I'm just glad to see some more representation. I'm glad that they're
that's true.
continuing to expand that. So I'm all for that. Whether or not I watch it, up in the air. But I liked Ezra Miller's character in Justice League, as we'll get to. So I'm most likely going to give it a shot. So we'll see.
Okay. So we'll have more Flash casting news shortly. Before then, we have more representation, big representation coming from DC. Ta-Nehisi Coates has been set to write a new Superman film for WB, and according to sources, it is being set up as a Black Superman story, which is surely going to ruffle some feathers, but it's happened in the comics before. There's precedent there, and also great. I'm all for it. It sounds awesome.
Is there there's a Black Superman in the comics?
There is. I don't think there's ever been a version of Kal-El or like Clark Kent that has been black, and I'm assuming this probably wouldn't do that, especially with like the weird murky territory that Henry Cavill is in with that version of Superman for the DC universe. But yes, there have been black Supermen, I believe. I think multiple in the comics. I haven't read a ton of Superman comics, but Calvin Ellis is the name of I think the most prominent black Superman character. Oh, apparently he actually is Kal-El, but I guess maybe he's from a different universe in the multiverse or something like that. I don't know, comics, whatever. But my point is, it's happened before. It's not crazy, and also you're getting fucking Ta-Nehisi Coates to write a Superman movie. I'm all for it. For those who do not know. Ta-Nehisi Coates is a brilliant essayist, novelist, and he's also probably within the past 5 years dipped his toes pretty heavily into comics. He's done a pretty acclaimed Black Panther run for Marvel for a while there.
Yeah, that's where I recognize the name from, I think.
Yeah, so this to me feels like a big deal. There was talks a while back. We may not have talked about this on the podcast at all, but there was talks that Michael B. Jordan was trying to do a Black Superman project for WB, and then that didn't really happen. So it's possible maybe that comes full circle here, or it just goes into a different direction. They find someone else to do it or whatever. But yeah. And he's also Coates has also written for Captain America more recently. I think he did Black Panther, and then he wrote on Captain America, which I haven't read. I've read some of the Black Panther stuff, but not the Captain America stuff. But I have also listened to Between the World and Me, which is like it's basically, I think it's a series of essays to his son that he basically wrote amidst the many racial struggles in America. So it feels like someone who has obviously a first-hand grasp on the racial realities of America, and taking a character who is quintessentially American in the form of Superman. To me, this is just such an exciting move. I'm very, very stoked for it. But enough of me, more from you guys. Black Superman, Ta-Nehisi Coates on to write. Sound good to you guys? Something that appeals to you?
Bring it, ruffle all the feathers. I cannot wait to see the feathers get ruffled and then blown away by some great storytelling and some much needed storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you take the struggles of what and the quintessential what we've known Superman to be, what I've known Superman to be. I never knew they had a black Superman. But you take Superman's struggles as a Kryptonian and put him on Earth, and he's got these normal struggles, and then they're only over amplified as a black person put in America. You know what I mean? And then with the same struggles. So it's Superman to the 10th degree. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it could be a really powerful film for sure. And I don't know his works, but what's Mr. Coates? I don't know Mr. Coates' works as thoroughly as I should. But if he's as acclaimed as he comes off, then I think that there's a ripe story to be told. So that could be very cool.
Yeah. Small correction for myself. Between the World and Me is a letter that he wrote to his son, basically. And another work that he did called We Were 8 Years in Power is a collection of essays. So I was kind of conflating those two. I have not read the latter, but I've heard it's excellent. So yes, I think it's very exciting news. Looking forward to seeing what comes of this. And diversity is the name of the game, really. As I'm seeing a growing trend here. Angel Manuel Soto is going to direct Blue Beetle, which will be DC's first Latino superhero film. Blue Beetle is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the character.
Beetleborgs?
I mean, somewhat Beetleborgs-esque. I'm not going to lie. My biggest frame of reference for Blue Beetle is that the character is involved in the Young Justice series, which is very good. Basically, he, like an alien scarab, bonds to the character's chest and
goddamn, that's
turns
terrifying.
into a super suit and gives him like alien powers and stuff like that. And basically, it has kind of a mind of its own, but they kind of work together. It's very cool, very interesting. The original Blue Beetle is Ted Kord, who's a white man, and then later in the comics, they developed this character of Jaime Reyes, who was like a Latino character who became a successor to the Blue Beetle mantle. So this would be based off of the Jaime Reyes version of the character, and this guy, Mr. Soto, directed something called Charm City Kings, which I think got some good buzz. So yeah, DC is just going on a hiring spree with regard to diversity, and so I think this is something that, you know, I think there's a lot of potential with this type of character. It's a bit more niche, a more unknown character, I think, certainly for the masses, but I think that leaves a lot of room for a filmmaker to play with. So yeah, once again, I kick it to you guys. Any thoughts on this?
No, I don't know anything about the Blue Beetle.
Okay.
But I do know about the Beetleborgs. I was a big Beetleborg. If you guys take a moment to look at your chat, this is the most Flabber. Flabber is my most memorable.
I do
Oh,
remember.
shit.
I hope he's not the villain of Blue Beetle. I definitely get a vibe of Venom meets Iron Man meets Beetleborgs, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I'm with you too that I think the unknown character, or the lesser known character, the niche character, can pave the way for a storyteller to be able to say, hey, there's not a preconceived notion of what this character should be, so I can tell the story that I think is important to tell. I don't remember Iron Man being a big character in the public zeitgeist prior to the 2008 film. And look what that did. Now, I do not see this being the next Marvel's Iron Man, but it definitely could open up the door for some fun stories. So
yeah, I'm excited to see what comes of it. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. All right, we got a few more pieces of news. I think the rest. One more piece of news here is also writers, etc., being brought on board. So we're getting another kind of more obscure character being brought to film from DC, and that is the character of Zatanna.
I know Zatanna.
Who is basically a magician. She's, not literally a magician, but she's got magical abilities. No, it actually does literally say that she's a magician. She's considered one of the most powerful sorcerers in the DC universe, apparently.
She's a Doctor Strange.
So that's cool.
yeah, genetic magical abilities.
Yeah, Doctor Strange is a decent comparison, for the other side of the aisle. So Emerald Fennell is going to be writing a big screen adaptation of the Zatanna film, and she is the now Oscar-nominated writer and director of Promising Young Woman, which was a promising young film that became less promising as it ended, as we've talked about. But I think it showed potential. I think that, the biggest faults that I had with that film were not in the directing capacity. I think she was great. But I think that, the ending just needed a little help. And so I kind of feel like this is probably fine. Like I think there was a lot of talent on display. Sometimes you just don't know how to end a story, and I can safely say that with something like DC or WB, like there are going to be multiple hands in the pot, and that may not be such a bad thing for trying to get something like this off the ground. So, I think it could work. I think it's an interesting character to center a film around, and I think that it's another wave of representation of having another female-led superhero film, because obviously though they're more commonplace these days, they're still obviously not what we come to expect with regularity either. So yeah,
big romance between her and Constantine.
Okay, yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see if they're starting to it'd be really gratifying. It'd be really not gratifying. It would be rewarding if we got the sort of groundwork that we got from Marvel from DC, because DC has very compelling characters. As much as their cinematic universe is pretty easy to shit on, I think. It's been pretty rough. But there are a lot of compelling characters and elements in their storytelling and everything else that would be awesome if it was brought to film. So with all of these announcements that we're going through, it would be it's kind of exciting. Maybe we're getting the groundwork that's required to have a proper team movie or whatever. You know what I mean?
Or show. Yeah.
It's cool. So I'll take all I can get. I just hope. God damn it, I just hope it's decent. I don't need it to be good or great or groundbreaking.
It's really
I just want it to be compelling and
that we're asking for,
Yeah, just want it to be good storytelling. I just want a good story. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Don't get us excited about all this representation, only to tell stories that suck. We at the end of the day, that's more important than anything else. It's more important than setting up franchises, and maybe that's a mistake they've made so far with a lot of these past couple of years with the DC films. It's been so focused on we have to do the MCU. Let's just stop. Let's just tell good stories that are, whether they're horror, they've got magic, they got superheroes. Let's just tell good stories.
The rest will follow. Just tell your story, But anyways, so
yeah.
Zatanna, she's right up my alley. I'm very excited about that, as long as you can tell the story. So
yeah, well, we will see what happens with that, and we will momentarily take a break from the DC film side of things to talk about the CW side of things. You thought we weren't going to get there, but we will, and we are getting there. You guys, as I recall, were both very, very excited for season 2 of Batwoman. Last we spoke, you guys said I live and breathe Batwoman. I want it right now. I'm very upset that I can't watch the entirety of the season. I wish they did an all-at-once drop a la Netflix. And I said, look, it's okay. It's going to be fine. But I decided to include Batwoman news in here, knowing that neither of you watched this show, in all seriousness. But because they did an interesting thing with Batwoman, because they basically brought in a new character, a new lead for season 2 after Ruby Rose bailed. They didn't end up recasting. Lo and behold, like 6 or 7 episodes into the season, whatever it is, oh, whoops, they did recast the role, and it's now part of the storyline that they recast the role. I think her face gets injured or something like that, so they're concocting a storyline for the Kane character to come back in the form of a different actress, but she fucked up her face, and she's going to get some surgery to make her look different. It's very Sin City-esque, you might say, which I think is kind of fun. It's probably not going to change.
But she's white.
Well, no. So what they're doing is Ruby Rose played Kane in season 1. Then she left.
Oh,
and
okay.
They brought in basically Javicia Leslie to play a black woman who took on the role of Batwoman, but was a different character. And then now they're bringing back the Kane character with Wallis Day taking over the role from Ruby Rose. So it's white woman going to white woman, which is good. That's much better.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would certainly understand some concerns. We don't support blackface on this podcast. We can say that much.
No.
So no, it's not that at all. But it is an interesting thing, because it's like, okay, well, what do you do now? You've now recast this main character who is the Batwoman character from comics, who is considered the official Batwoman, and now
every fucking season.
Well,
Recasting.
well, I mean, my concern is like, you brought this black woman to be the lead role. Are you now going to sideline her halfway through the season? You know, because like I feel like you've opened the door at this point. You know what I mean? Like you can't undo what's been done. Like if you wanted to recast and just keep Kane as the main character, you could have done that in the first instance. So now they're kind of in a weird situation of just being like, all right, are they still writing the character out? Like, I don't know. Anyway, I'll be curious to see how it plays out. I know neither of you give a shit, but I do think it's interesting that they decided to do this in this particular
Sounds
manner.
like a typical CW-ism.
Yeah.
It sounds
You're
like
making
a...
you're making a strong case to get into the show, man. I don't know. Let's see.
I don't know. It's very dramatic. It's very dramatic. But
CW.
next we convene,
Yes,
whatever episode
yeah.
it is, I'm sure we'll have some Batwoman. That'll be our through line, is always talking about Batwoman, just to torture everyone. All right. I assume you guys don't really have anything substantive to offer, so we can move on. Casting news for DC. Three pieces of casting news for DC films. Shazam, Fury of the Gods, the sequel to Shazam, has its villain, Helen Mirren. Helen Mirren's coming in to play the villain Hespera, the daughter of Atlas, and then the Shazam sequel. So apparently this is a character that is not a villain in any of the DC comics, so they're just going, with mythology as their kind of basis for this. But hey, whatever, it's Helen Mirren. It's good enough for me. And the first Shazam was very fun, so I'm excited to see a sequel, bringing back the same director and I think pretty much everyone else that was involved in the first one coming back. So what do you guys think?
I will go on record to say that I think that Shazam was my favorite DC movie to date.
Okay.
I think so.
That's not a hot take. Yeah, I think that's probably...
So, I don't know the mythology of Hespera, but that sounds cool. Like, I mean, I'm all for it, and she's a wonderful actress, so should be interesting. If it's Shazam, I'm in. And to be frank, I think I'm in on most DC things as long as it's not CW. If it's not CW, I'm generally going to watch it. So
you'll give it a chance, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. I would really like the characters of DC to take off. I really would. And I would like them to take off, like, not in the way that we've had them take off, and the way that things are successful when in my personal opinion, I don't think they should be. I.e., fucking Harley Quinn. Like, I don't get that. But, yeah, Shazam's cool. I like Shazam. So I'm all for it. We'll see what happens. A lot of silence. I said something. Did I say something bad? Did I say Harley Quinn? Harley Quinn's a pretty... why is Harley Quinn the centerpiece of the fucking DC universe on fucking television? Not television, shows and shit, movies. Why?
She's popular. Kids love her.
Why?
That is true. The why is a difficult question to answer, but
why? You have so many wonderful fucking women DC characters. Harley Quinn and the way she's portrayed and everything else and how she's Joker-centric and blah, 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 blah. Out of all the women you want to, like, choose to put in the centerpiece of your fucking thing, you choose Harley Quinn. Why?
You know what? Just like Hansel, she's so hot right now.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
That's about all
I hope that Helen Mirren, daughter of Atlas, becomes the new Halloween costume for 2021. That's what I think. Or
I
when's
don't
the
think
movie
the film's
come out?
coming out until probably 2022. So we'll
2022.
wait for that.
I want her costume to be the big one for 2022.
I'll ask you this, Andrew. If her costume was the big costume of 2022,
I'd fucking wear it. I'd
Good.
fucking wear it.
I'm proud. Good.
I am the daughter of Atlas. Before I was the Black Panther, now I'm the daughter of Atlas.
Yeah. Much more appropriate.
Oh god, I really do need to go see the Shazam movie. It looked hilarious.
Great. Dude, you'd really like it. It's great. They got a big flighty combat, fly into each other, kind of typical DC fighting kind of thing at the end. But other than that, it was pretty good.
Yeah, watch it. I'm gonna come over and watch it on your OLED.
It's not a bad idea, It's been long enough since you've seen it, Andrew. It's
I would watch it
every so
again.
often. Yeah. Well, we return again to some casting for the Flash film because Billy Crudup, who we actually did see in Zack Snyder's Justice League as Henry Allen, the father of Barry Allen, father of the Flash, he has departed the role of Henry Allen because of scheduling conflicts, and in his place will be Ron Livingston. Okay.
Cool.
This is how I feel about it. You know, fine, whatever. It's you know.
I like the guy from I like the dad from the Justice League.
We'll talk about him, I'm sure. But
this guy is. I just Googled him, and his picture there with his smile. I can't. It's a funny Google when you Google him.
Ron Livingston or Billy Crudup?
No, Ron Livingston. Just see him there smiling. It's like I can't picture him being put in jail. He's a happy guy.
Well, he's in a white collar prison. He's in a white collar prison after the digital theft. You know, whatchamacallit. I mean, it's fine. It is a white guy with short dark hair.
Fits the bill.
Fits the bill.
Fits the bill.
Okay.
Well,
anyway,
that's that.
Yeah. I threw it in there just for the sake of being complete with our DC coverage, or our very exhaustive DC coverage, as it's turned out to be, obviously. But The Flash will be speeding into cinemas November 4th of 2022.
Nice. Good delivery.
Well done.
So, who will be the faster, Sonic or the Flash? We'll have to stay tuned and see how that turns out. Maybe we'll get a crossover at some point. A man can dream. All right, last piece of casting news. A bit more exciting, I think. Pierce Brosnan has joined the cast of Black Adam, and he is going to be playing the DC hero Dr. Fate.
Fuck yeah, I'm about
which
that.
is very cool. Dr. Fate is a very, very fucking cool character. And Pierce Brosnan is a good actor. A bad singer, as I've learned from the Mamma Mia films, but a good actor. So
tell us about Dr. Fate. What do you got about Dr. Fate? I don't know a lot about Dr. Fate.
Dr. Fate, so basically multiple people have inherited the title. And I guess it's not really a title. It's like you kind of become a different person when you put on the helmet of Fate. Basically, you get the character, like sorcery abilities and stuff like that. Again, this is another character who I've had a lot of exposure to through Young Justice, and so they've kind of had different characters kind of take on different incarnations of Dr. Fate through that. And he's just this, I don't know, the costume design alone. I mean, that's just something that will translate very well to a film. Is he
Egyptian?
A very badass costume.
Naboo? Who's the character Naboo? Oh, so that's some fucking old school shit, some Mesopotamian shit.
Yeah, I think that, so basically...
I gave it a quick Google.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I think basically whoever wears the helmet gets the powers of Naboo, that sort of thing. And Naboo is like this ancient wizard dude person, so something like that.
That's cool as shit. And Pierce Brosnan plays
Naboo
that guy?
was worshipped by the Babylonians and the Assyrians as the god of literacy and the rational arts, scribes, and wisdom. Don't know what that has to do with powers such as spellcasting, flight, superhuman strength, telekinesis, pyrokinesis, and so on and so forth, but that sounds pretty cool.
Man, and you just Google Dr. Fate and you look at the images, he's a badass looking dude.
Yeah, like I said, the design of this character is something that is going to translate very well. We've technically seen, I think Smallville might have done like a Dr. Fate, and as with all the Smallville costume designs, it was pretty oof. You certainly tried there, didn't you? But
and is he a bad guy or is he a good guy?
No, he's a good guy. But he's a good guy, I think overall. But it's at least in the Young Justice kind of version that I've seen, because it's like this super ancient wizard. Like there's someone that's been around for thousands of years, and they're not so concerned with mortals and blah blah blah. They're not going around killing people or anything like that. but it's just kind of this thing where it's just like, I've been around for 1,000 years. I'm very wise. I know better than everything. I'm going to do what's best for the world, not because I care about you, but because I know what's best, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So anyway, it to me just feels like a character that's very cool, ripe for adaptation. Pierce Brosnan feels like a good fit. And I think in the context of Black Adam, which is the project that he's going to be appearing in, he'll be a part of the Justice Society of America, alongside Hawkman and a couple other kind of like more old school type DC characters. So,
and this is not going to be Black Adam's not going to be a animated film. I know that we got the teaser and it was like a.
Yeah, that was a little misleading because they clearly hadn't shot anything for it. I don't even know if it's filming as of yet, but it will be live action. It will be Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson portraying Black Adam, who is typically a Shazam villain, but is kind of an anti-hero, a Venom-esque, kind of anti-hero where villain for certain characters, but comes down to it, they'll be willing to protect the world or something like that if it kind of suits their needs or whatever. So that's kind of the gist of it, more or less. And of course, you're getting The Rock, so that's pretty exciting. He took over Times Square like a day or two ago to announce the release date for Black Adam, which I think is also set for 2022 alongside The Flash.
So is
the new release date is July 2022. So
in this particular instance of Dr. Fate versus Black Adam, is Pierce Brosnan going to be the good guy, whereas Black Adam's going to be the bad guy, or is Black Adam going to be the good guy versus Pierce Brosnan? What do you think?
I think it'll be the latter, but it'll also probably be a case where the Justice Society are technically the good guys, and maybe our perspective is from someone who is a villain, quote unquote, but is doing things for what he feels is right or something like that would be my guess.
So kind of like a Blurred Lines kind of situation.
I can see that.
Okay.
Not the song.
Not the song, because those lines were definitely not blurred.
Yeah.
Bad joke. I'm sorry. We're moving on.
We're moving on to the final piece of news of this episode. The Suicide Squad, the James Gunn doing a superhero film thing that Dan alluded to. We got an official Red Band trailer. We obviously had seen some footage from DC Fandom and all that, but this is our first, I think, official little trailer, not a behind the scenes thing or anything like that. And we got a full, proper look at what James Gunn, the horrible creative mind, whatever, the horribly beautiful mind is whatever they call him something in the trailer. We see what he's cooking, and do you? I should have done we see what someone is cooking joke with the Rock thing. I now realize, but anyway, do you guys like what James Gunn is cooking?
I'm hungry for it. I'm ready to get in the kitchen and have a taste of the soup. No, I'm taking that too far, but yeah, it looks great. I'm here for King Shark. I'm here for John Cena. I'm here for Idris Elba. I'm back for King Shark. Let's just be honest. I appreciated too that the trailer did not make it look Harley Quinn centric.
No.
To speak to your point, it looks like she's being pushed, not to the sidelines per se, but at least to the edge, so that these other characters can have a chance to do their tomfoolery. I think they're going down the road that Deadpool and Logan paved the way for. Of hey, we can be R-rated, we can be gory, we can be not just irreverent, but arguably inappropriate for everyone. And you know what? I think we need that. I think it'll be fun. Also, Idris Elba. I mean, talk about top tier in this thing.
Yeah. Pretty stacked cast, I think, on the whole. We I don't know if it says it in the trailer, but Sylvester Stallone is voicing King Shark. So I mean, come on, right there.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I would say about that. Andrew, how'd you feel? Does this stack up favorably compared to its predecessor, Suicide Squad? The movie minus the in it. This one has the in front of it, so it's different. Very easy to tell them apart. Not feeling it?
No, the jokes didn't quite land with me.
Okay.
With the exception of Polka Dot Man in the theater. Like he's like,
so.
we're all gonna die, and then it's like he looks over at him, he's like crying. It's like, God, I hope so. That was pretty funny. The dude with the shit sticking out of his head and everybody giving him the rules and everything, and then Harley Quinn just taking it to it didn't quite land. I don't know. The humor seemed to kind of miss me, except that one guy in the theater. But I'm hopeful. James Gunn's pretty great. I really like James Gunn movies. I think, he usually makes me laugh pretty good.
Yeah.
So I'm hope this is where they just displayed some of the over-the-top stuff and a lot of the minor things hit really good. But we'll see how it goes. We know that he's capable of making a team-based movie and giving everyone an appropriate light to shine. I think he's talented in that regard, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. As with all things DC, I'll give it a shot, and we'll see if it's any good. I did like the kaiju ending. I did think that was good, and I think this is we get what's his face being funny again at the end, right? Seeing this too. The guy that says, "Oh shit, we got a kaiju up in this shit." Is that the same guy?
Same guy as what?
Same guy that was in the Don't Touch Me or the Touched. The Touched, the Never Touched.
Oh, Nick Frost.
Is that his name? You know who I'm talking about? The guy that was in Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
Oh, no. It's someone different. I think it's Steve Agee, who is like a frequent collaborator of James Gunn's. So
Okay.
different guy.
Sorry. Okay. I thought he was under makeup and shit. I'm sorry.
I was not following that thread at all. I was very lost, in case that wasn't apparent to anyone listening.
Sorry. I'm a wine in, so if I don't make sense.
Very understandable. We're talking Zack Snyder's Justice League. We are still talking, for the record. We'll talk.
I had to be prepped for when we dive into the content. So.
But for my money for the Suicide Squad, I think I really agree with you, Andrew, in the sense that the humor was certainly hit or miss. I think the bag of dicks or whatever it was joke went too long, didn't really land. The Harley stuff didn't bother me too much. But yeah, some of the humor just wasn't quite there. But I do think I am curious because yes, James Gunn has proven that he can do team up superhero films, but this is kind of unrestrained James Gunn in the sense that obviously the Guardians have been irreverent, but they haven't been like outright raunchy or R-rated or anything like that. And so I'm wondering if this is, I don't know, like is this?
He has no chain, right?
Is the humor going to be just because it's more unfiltered, is it going to be less funny as a result, or is it going to be more funny and stuff like that? And so, like, even for this, which is a red band trailer, like clearly they can stick whatever the hell they want into it, and it still wasn't like, totally hilarious or anything like that. But I think if nothing else, even if it's not going to be outright, funny or uproarious, whatever, I do think the set pieces are going to be very good. I think it's going to be incredibly violent. I think most of these characters are going to die in extremely violent ways, whether their heads exploding or just getting killed on whatever their suicide missions are. I think it'll actually feel like a proper Suicide Squad movie. And I think that's very cool. It's exciting. You bring in a bunch of these characters that no one's ever heard of. I fully expect someone like Polka Dot Man to survive, because why wouldn't you just have Polka Dot Man survive? But they have, you see, every time Pete SNL
the
guy.
Pete guy. Yeah, right.
Pete Davidson. I always struggle with his name. He's on this. His head's getting exploded like 30 seconds in. I have absolutely no doubt about it in my mind. Flula head is exploding 30 seconds in. No doubt in my mind. I think a lot of these characters are going to die pretty early on, pretty violently. But as long as we get, some other mayhem elsewhere, John Cena being ridiculous, shooting people, and King Shark ripping people in half and shit, and chomping on legs and that sort of thing. Like I think it'll work overall, even if the humor doesn't always land. I think that there'll be enough zaniness and violence and mayhem.
I call Fula Borg having a malfunction with his chip. Like they're in training or some shit, and they just like poof, his head explodes, and like, oh, that was a malfunction of the chip in the skull.
I feel like I have a headache.
I will laugh my ass off if that happens.
That will be funny. I think the violence will be a source of comedy more often than not, and that's the kind of alley I feel like this is good for James Gunn's style. So, yeah, I'm excited for it. We'll see what happens. This is an August release. This is a simultaneous debut, theaters and HBO Max. So you can watch it at home. You can watch it in theaters. And it will be on August 6th, so just a week before my birthday. So that's fun. That's neat. Can't complain about that. So yeah, that's the news. Lots of DC stuff there for you. And we've got lots more DC stuff on tap right now with Zack Snyder's Justice League. So Zack Snyder's Justice League, whether you stream it in muted colors or in black and white, it is available on HBO Max. And it was written by Chris Terrio, directed by Zack Snyder, and it stars Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, Gal Gadot, Ray Fisher, Jason Momoa, Ezra Miller, Willem Dafoe. It wasn't in the theatrical cut, was he? Willem Dafoe, come on. Yeah. Jesse Eisenberg, Jeremy Irons, Diane Lane, Connie Nielsen, J.K. Simmons, Joe Morton, and Kieran Hines. So, you've seen this movie before, basically. The plot is fundamentally identical, but determined to ensure Superman's ultimate sacrifice was not in vain, Bruce Wayne aligns forces with Diana Prince with plans to recruit a team of metahumans to protect the world from an approaching threat of catastrophic proportions. So, we will do a traditional non-spoiler recommendation, spoiler format. That said, the plot does largely mirror what you probably saw in the 2017 film, but in a very greatly expanded scope with some differences here and there that certainly will be keen to flesh out as we get into that spoiler conversation. So we said a lot of words about Zack Snyder's Justice League from its inception to the trailer, or trailers maybe even, and that brings us here. With alcohol in hand, hopefully, the time has come for us to talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League. And so, who wants to have the honors of starting and telling us their feelings on this film, this 4-hour behemoth, this 4-hour film, Zack Snyder's Justice League? What do we got?
This is what I got. I'll kick it off. I have to unbutton my pants. I'm full. Hold on. All right. Pants unbuttoned, wine in hand. These are my thoughts on the Snyder Cut, as it's otherwise known. I am grateful for this version of the film to come out, because I think that, yes, it was very long. Although it was very long, we got to see glimmers. We got to experience a plethora of characters that otherwise had no place in the previous film. Now, I did not watch the previous version of this film and then watch this one, so I'm going off of hindsight. I didn't want to subject myself to that sort of punishment.
That's 6 hours versus 4.
Right.
Why?
But what I did gather from this is Cyborg is a character. We get a lot of him. Flash is a character. We get a lot of him. Less so much of Aquaman, but he has his own film now, so I felt like it was less needed. And I really feel like you could have had a 2-hour movie if each of the characters had a 2-hour movie before this movie came out, which we don't have the luxury of that, so I feel out of necessity you have to have a 4-hour movie in order to have a complete movie. And that's probably the biggest gripe. I can't recall what my feelings were on the original movie. I was pretty pissed about it, if I'm not mistaken. But
you did not like it from the snippets that I listened to. You were not a fan.
I was not a fan. But this movie, you get the sense of reason from every character, even down to the villains. You know why they're doing what they're doing, which feels good. Now, that's the biggest praise I can give the movie. You understand each character, which from the original movie is a huge step forward. But this movie is 4 hours long, out of necessity, but it's 4 hours long of what humor's in it is largely missed. Like I feel like the humor that I got from this movie wasn't intended as humor. I laughed when I don't think I should have been laughing, but certain things were just outrageously hilarious.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And we can dive into that in spoilers, I suppose. But things that were very apparent to be humorous didn't land with me. Which, I guess, everybody's a little bit different. So that's a personal subjection, I guess. I don't know, but it's very much one note. There are moments of emotion that you get. There were certain touching moments in the movie which were I thought really well done. And because now I understand the characters, now there's another level of understanding, and it feels good. You know what I mean? To have that. But just with the 110% dour, like down in the dumps, the high notes of the movie were like, if 0% your baseline, 10% your high, and everything else is -10. If that makes any sense. Like, you spend the majority of the movie down in the dumps, and then your peaks are like, oof, like right there. They're very there were no high notes in this movie, like moments of like pure elation. There was no oh, that's totally awesome. You know what I mean? It was just all down in the fucking dumps the whole time, which I'm usually one to be down in the dumps, but fuck, a quarter of my day has been spent down in the dumps. You know what I mean? Like 4 fucking hours.
Yeah.
That's a long time to spend fucking wallowing around in the dumps. That's a long time. And if you want to put me down there deep in the fucking dumps, at least give me some dynamics to kind of fall down into. You know what I mean? Makes the dumps that much more terrible. But I felt like I spent most of the movie down at a base, like just a solid. I don't know how to describe it. Like I said, I'm a bottle of wine in, or I'm almost a bottle of wine in. So my words may not make sense. I don't know, but it was a very one note movie with some touching moments. The characters are more thoroughly realized, which I really appreciated. Humor didn't really hit with me. The CG was wonky, to say the best, at moments. Certain things were profoundly stupid at moments. And the third act of the movie was kind of shit. I would say that. So that's my kind of feelings on it. I think it's not a, I can't in good faith recommend anybody go out and watch a 4-hour movie, especially one of this nature. Like, you want to watch a 4-hour movie, watch like The Fellowship of the Ring. Like, that's a good 4-hour movie. I can recommend that. You get good high moments. You get pure joy. You know what I mean? You're setting the bar line. Like, this is what life looks like before the trials and tribulation. And then these are problems. You know what I mean? Like, there's dynamics set. That's the thing about a 2-hour movie. Like, or not a 2-hour movie. 2-hour movies need them too. But dynamics are so important, especially in lengthy storytelling. You need to know what's worth fighting for. But if you set the baseline so low, like, this is life, this is what we're doing, this is great, this is blah blah blah. Oh no, somebody's gonna come take it from us. Okay, we're gonna try our best to make it better. Get rid of that guy. No, you need to like have, yay, we're happy, this is what we're doing, and now this fucking guy wants to take it from us. So now we're gonna do our best to prevent it from happening. You know what I mean? Like, there's no sort of baseline in there. And if you want to look towards the previous movies, okay, what are we looking to? Batman vs Superman? Like, that was the baseline before? Like, okay, just take over our world. It's a piece of shit. Batman's killing people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I I just feel like the Snyderverse, if that's what we're gonna call it, is just a one note, colorless version of life. And if the stone faced dude wants to take it, then okay, because life's pretty fucking colorless as it is. And that's my biggest gripe. But there was my biggest praise for the movie, and if you're gonna like have two versions of the movie that you want to compete against each other, you know, the biggest praise I can give of this is that every character in this movie had a point of view, and it felt like a point of view movie, which was cool. And I can praise it for that. As melancholy as every character seemed to be, with the exception of Flash. Maybe Flash had humor or attempts of humor, and with the exception of Flash, I guess. Everything else and even Flash himself, his life seemed very melancholy. I mean, everything was melancholy. There was fucking, it was just all fucking melancholy the whole time, and we're fighting for melancholy. That's what I don't know.
Melancholy and the infinite sadness.
Melancholy and the infinite sadness. That's what we were fighting for. We're gonna fight to keep it melancholy. God damn it, we like our melancholy. That's what Batman was talking about the whole time. But there were characters in this movie, and that was cool.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Most films have this.
The first one certainly didn't.
That's true.
They were technically in it, but
Legally.
doesn't have a whole lot going on there. But I think we can kind of tease out, the character arcs and moments and stuff like that more in spoilers. And Dan, I want to throw it to you because there's obviously a lot that we're going to have to unpack with this, but I do want to know general impressions. Dan, there was talk of eating
fucking slow mo. By the way, I can't. We could have shaved off. Like, if we need to look in the editing studio, hey, listen, Zach, we're riding at like 4 hours, dude. Maybe we can tune it down to like 3.5 hours if we get rid of like 10% of the slow mo. Fuck no.
You know what?
Fuck no. I want all the slow-mo. No.
This is what we should have had as a fun fact at the outset. I believe IGN crunched the numbers and found out that literally 10% of this film is presented in slow-mo.
10% of the fucking movie is slow motion.
Not too far off the mark in terms of that. We could make this a little shorter by fixing that.
That is literally just shy of 30 minutes. So there you go. You have a 3.5 hour movie. Well, first of all, Andrew stole my biggest recommendation was cut the slow-mo. I know that's his style. That's his visual signature. But give us the cheesy team shot and then drop the slow-mo. We don't need any more.
We have 30 minutes of slow-mo. It's outrageous.
When we met a couple weeks ago, months, whatever it is, last year.
Time is irrelevant. It's a flat circle.
It's an illusion. It's just an illusion. But I was ready. I talked about how I was ready to just tear this movie a new one and all that. I used the word that I believe the movie was an exercise in directorial hubris, something like that. But that comment itself was my own hubris. I will admit that. Making those kind of assumptions about a movie I hadn't seen, was just. I was acting on information I didn't have. Long story short, I did enjoy this film. For the record, I did not see the 2017 version, so...
okay.
So,
that's an interesting perspective.
Yes,
okay.
So I bring in the perspective of... now, I watched it with Kelly, who, as Andrew knows, is my significant other. She had seen the 2017 version. So she was able to kind of be my guide through, they didn't do that. They didn't do that. They didn't mention that. And we'll unpack that in spoilers, but... So she was kind of my how shall I say? She was my roadmap of what the Snyder Cut added, what it returned to glory. Andrew made a good point about the humor. Some of it, we'll get into spoilers. There was one moment in particular that had both me and Kelly just dying laughing. That was not meant to be funny, but it was. The humor, it hit and miss. Andrew mentioned melancholy sense of the movie. So when there was humor, it felt a little off. But I keep going back to I'm a big fan of like old Hollywood, not so much the values, but the kind of the spectacle of it. This felt a little bit like, hey, let's do an epic style film where we're not afraid to just ride every character's arc from beginning to end. And we wouldn't have had that if it wasn't for the kind of the meta context of the movie, with everyone wanting this cut, with it being released at a very strange time for filmmaking and for Hollywood, with it being released on a streaming platform.
How about in 4:3? Not to cut you off. How about 4:3? I cut you off. I'm sorry. I feel like an asshole.
No, that's okay.
everything.
I loved it. I love playing with perspective, with aspect ratio. I'm a big fan of it. I can see why they did it. What's the argument? A lot of people said, "Oh, well, you're cutting off the sides," and then the correction is, "No, you're adding the top and bottom."
But we're at a day and age where we can have the sides and we can have the top and bottom.
Well, maybe not everyone can, Andrew. None of us have the top and bottom like you do. But,
okay.
I liked it, but I will say I was waiting for the aspect ratio to change because
no change.
I'm a big fan of, they're using the aspect ratio to give us some context. Like maybe some of the scenes that were added that gave context to things. Again, I'll stay away from the spoilers for now, but could have been in a traditional widescreen aspect ratio. And then it shows you, this is different. This is, we're changing something here. Like they did with WandaVision, where they use the aspect ratio as a tool for storytelling. So that is one of those
that would have been cool.
That feels a little bit like when I was in a photography and I would do a really, really shallow depth of field. Sometimes I would do it with an artistic vision in mind, and sometimes I was doing it because, you know what? This would look really cool with super shallow depth of field. I got a little bit of that feel from it, but I didn't hate it. I always watched movies in letterbox back when all of our TVs were square, and that was a thing. So I don't mind it. It doesn't bother me at all. At the end of the day, like I said, though, I enjoyed the movie. I'm excited to unpack some of it. But I'll acknowledge that I probably enjoyed it more because of the context of it, because of kind of what this represents as a filmmaking concept, what it represents as an element of the audience having a say and their voice being heard. And hey, this is the entertainment you gave us was not up to our standard. It was not something we enjoyed. We want to see the original vision, and that voice being heard, I think, is something to talk about. Whether you agree or disagree that it's a good thing, it's something that happened. I don't think 10 or 20 years ago we would have ever had a hashtag release the anything cut and had it actually be heard by Hollywood. So the fact that we got it at all, I think, might have colored my view of it.
It changed Sonic.
It did, and don't we agree that it changed Sonic for the better? I mean,
yeah.
Release the fucked up Sonic the Hedgehog looking motherfucker movie.
Original OG Sonic. Hashtag OG. Release the OG Sonic.
But the things that I didn't rip at the time, because I went into the movie thinking, I'm going to watch this in 2 or 3 hour chunks. The fact that it was divided into 6, 7, 8, 22 parts. Set it up nicely to say, you know what, I'm going to watch half of it tonight, parts 1 through 3. I agree that you could have shaved off a half hour of slow-mo. We'll get into that. But at the end of the day, we sat down, and about 45 minutes in, Kelly and I were like, I think we're just going to finish this tonight. We powered through it in one night. And I didn't, I would have to say that I would not recommend this movie to someone who doesn't want to go into it with an appreciation of the context behind it, who doesn't want to go into it with kind of a, let's just see what he had in mind. It was not a quote-unquote fun film, if that makes sense, in the sense that The Exorcist is not a fun film. That's a movie you watch to feel a certain way, to be given a story that titillates certain senses, and I feel like that's kind of how Justice League treated me last weekend. So, but at the end of the day, I enjoyed it. I was proven wrong that I could enjoy something that I once thoroughly shat upon. So there you go.
Wow. Okay. All right. It's interesting because I think in the lead up to this movie dropping on HBO Max, we got a trickle of reviews on Rotten Tomatoes and stuff, and they were all, not all, literally all of them, but overwhelmingly pretty positive. And there seemed to be a consensus. This is way better than the 2017 Whedon cut. And it's good, and it does things well, and it's pretty good. And I'm like, man, how come they didn't advertise the film? The film that was advertised looked real bad. Like, what happened between like marketing and stuff like that? And so it comes out, and here we are. And I guess I think I agree with a lot that's already been said. Slow-mo particularly is something that is just so egregious in this film. It's ridiculous. The aspect ratio, I think, was very dumb from the outset, but I did get used to it probably a few minutes in, and it didn't really bother me from that point on. The characterization's better overall. There are things that I agree with that's already been said, but I think I will say, I was surprised that the movie was not the complete train wreck disaster that I expected it to be. Because I just thought full, unadulterated Zack Snyder, I'm like, I don't think anything worse could happen. You know what I mean? I think there was I think I saw a poll on Twitter or something like that. It was like, what do you think is going to be worse? The Whedon cut or the Zack Snyder cut? And I thought that the Snyder cut was going to be worse purely because it was twice as long. You know what I mean? It was like, they're both going to be bad, but one's going to be 2 hours and one's going to be 4 hours. So I'm sure there are aspects of one that will be better than the other, and there'll be aspects of the other that will be better than the other one. But 2 hours versus 4 hours, I'm going to save the time and say the 2 hours one. And now having watched it, I think I have two seemingly contradictory thoughts, but I think they'll make sense, once I explain them, which are that this film is absolutely better than what Joss Whedon put out. However, I fully understand why Joss Whedon made the film that he did. Because this is basically this is the entire canvas, more or less, of what Zack Snyder kind of had mapped out for this movie. And Joss Whedon was left with a mandate to release a Justice League film that was shot by someone else that needed to be under 2 hours. And I don't think there's a version of this film that you can cut to under 2 hours that then makes any sense.
Definitely not.
I think there's a version of this film you could cut to about 2 hours and 45 minutes, 2 hours and 50 minutes. I mean, getting rid of the slow-mo alone, there's a lot of dumb scenes. There's a lot of unnecessary scenes. There are scenes that are important for character development that I think should have been included, and stuff like that. But I think I think literally removing half of this film, even with the slow-mo factored into that, is just a little bit too over the line. You know what I mean?
It's a 3-hour movie. It's a 3-hour movie, I think.
I think there's a 3-hour movie in this that works. I think the 4-hour movie as presented is too long. There's a lot in it that's real bad. There's a lot in it that's good. There's a lot in it that's fine. It kind of rides, it's all over the place, really, I think, in terms of quality. But I think that, it is a complete package. And I think it's a tonally consistent, complete package, which is not the case with the Joss Whedon one. And I think that, when you see kind of everything kind of splayed out as it is, you do get an appreciation for what Zack Snyder was trying to accomplish with his vision. I think I made the point earlier, this would have never been allowed to have been released in theaters in a 4-hour incarnation like this, so it's not really what Zack Snyder would have done with his movie. He still would have had to cut it down, and I think, again, we'll talk about it in the spoilers, but I think there are many, many places you can cut this film down and get it into a much better package. Would I think that film is amazing? No, I don't think so, because I still fundamentally don't like how Snyder characterizes most of these characters. I think the humor, as Andrew mentioned, is bad throughout. I mean, I don't know if he used those words, but
my man, it's still my man. My man still found a place in this movie.
I think it's consistently unfunny. To me, it's a deliberate response of that movie. Superman is completely devoid of humor, and Justice League has funny characters. You got the Flash, you got Aquaman, whatever, and they're going to be funny, but they're not. They're just not funny for me. I didn't find any of the humor to land. All the humor that landed was unintentional, laughing at the ridiculousness of something or slow-mo or something like that, and just some things in here. And then beyond that, I do think some of the characterization is off for some of these, which is because I don't really like how Zack Snyder thinks of these characters. I read it somewhere. I can't attribute it, unfortunately, so sorry for kind of taking the idea, but I'm sort of crediting it. Zack Snyder doesn't think of the Justice League as superheroes. He thinks of them as gods. And that's how he depicts them, as these are gods, and I don't think that's quite right. I don't think that's what the Justice League is. You know what I mean? I think they are superheroes who are fundamentally about saving people. They're not these, people to be put on a pedestal that people worship. The way that he makes Superman this Jesus parallel all the time, and we get some of that in this one too, and just I don't know. Just the way that he depicts these things as these larger than life personalities and characters, to me, is not really, I think, how these characters should be treated. But again, that's his vision. He's consistent in his vision. It's just a vision I don't fully stand behind. And I think that there's a reason that we're not, I think there's a reason that they moved away from Zack Snyder, at a certain point. Obviously, they came back to him, once the movement kind of swept up DC or WB into kind of making this thing happen. But what I guess I will say, to kind of go back to what I was talking about in terms of understanding why Whedon did what he did, is I think because you couldn't cut the film as is to a 2-hour film, his solution was, I will reshoot parts of the film to change the flow, to make it a little bit more fast paced, to kind of fill in the gaps and stuff like that. And I totally understand why he did that. If you're given a mandate from the studio, get this thing under 2 hours, you realize I can't make a 2-hour movie with this that works. There's not enough connective tissue, whatever the case may be. My instinct is, I want to reshoot part of this to make it work. The problem is Joss Whedon's instincts are also bad. In fact, they're worse, when it comes to this sort of thing. And he tried to do too much with this thing, and he tried to make it his own, and it wasn't. It turned into this weird Frankenstein's monster of a film where you have Zack Snyder's visuals, which are pretty on point, I think, overall, and then awful reshoot green screen Whedon coming in, and even more bad dialogue. Like, the humor in the Whedon thing is actually worse than what ended up in this cut. And some of the additions were just fucking nonsense. There's like the whole thing, Dan, maybe you were, I don't know if you were informed about this, but the whole third act, there's like a Russian family or something like that who is put in peril and they have to be saved. And that is nowhere to be found in this version. And it was just the dumbest thing ever. They're like living near like Chernobyl, basically. And I'm like, what? Huh? Doesn't make any sense.
And I think it was dumb. The Flash's sole purpose in the mission was to like
save them. Yeah.
Save the family.
Yes.
Which again, that goes along the lines of Zack Snyder is not interested in portraying these characters as heroes who save the common man. He's interested in portraying them as beings of great power that fight other beings of great power, and as a result, hopefully, small beings won't die. It sounds like Joss Whedon come in, and again, that's where you describe it perfectly, is that Frankenstein of, well, you have that vision combined with, well, no, he wants to lighten it up a bit and show that they're heroes. So then you get that kind of craziness. Yeah,
and so, my point is, I get why Joss Whedon tried to do what he did. He just failed. Pure and simple, he failed at what he tried to do. And I think he was left with a pretty hard task. I'm not, I just don't think there's a way to make this movie under 2 hours. You know what I mean? And I think that like Justice League is like 10 seconds under 2 hours. So like he did what he could, but what he did was still bad. It's not to excuse what he did. He still failed at the task, and the movie did not do very successful. Wasn't like, a very financially successful film.
You need to watch all the footage that you have and say, hey, you can't do this.
Yeah. So I mean, ultimately, the responsibility I think still is on WB for having absolutely no idea what they're doing, even leading up to this film. And I think that's evidenced by Batman v Superman's bullshit. I think it's evidenced by the fact that they somewhat tried to course correct with this one and really tried to overcorrect with like, let's make it short and funny and witty and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, I mean, if you wanted that, then you needed to do that from the outset, and I think to the point of, making these characters work. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, the 2 hour Justice League thing didn't work because Cyborg wasn't a character because he didn't have enough screen time for it. And obviously Joss Whedon made damn sure that he didn't have screen time to do that because that's apparently what he did. But like any filmmaker would have struggled to do that. Aquaman didn't have his solo film at that point. That came out after Justice League. So it's like, You got to build the groundwork for that. You got to build groundwork for Flash. Like,
and you can't.
Wonder Woman had one film. Batman had not really had a film. Batman had part of a film. Superman at least had one solo film. But like, there's not enough. There's not enough with that. And then you bring in a villain, and Steppenwolf is like a dumb shit character in that first one. And here, lo and behold, you add 4 hours, and there's a bit more context to a villain here. That you understand his motivations, and like Whedon tried to simplify that. Darkseid is not in, he's not in the Whedon cut at all. Whereas, there's a bit more grandeur here, even in terms of the schemes of the villains and stuff like that. So, I think ultimately what Zack Snyder did here is better. It's unequivocally better. It's a better version of the film. Still, I think I would argue filled with problems of its own, and fully capable of being slimmed down to a more reasonable length, but that could still feel like a proper superhero epic film. Like when you've had Batman, like Dark Knight Rises is like fucking almost 3 hours long. Watchmen was 3 hours long. Like it's okay to have like these epic 3 hour films. Endgame was 3 hours long. You know what I mean? Like you can totally do that for these team up films, and I think you have to, especially in a circumstance like this.
Out of necessity,
for WB to come in and say 2 hours is just absolute insanity on their behalf. So, yeah, I was, I'll say, pleasantly surprised in the sense that it was absolutely better than I thought it was going to be. But I say that while also acknowledging it's still really not for me. It's just not what I think these characters ought to be. And I think that even if it is a consistent version of that, I still don't really care for it. But I can appreciate the merits behind it, the technical merits of it. Wonky CG aside, I think we could chalk that up mostly to it being, a lot of effects work being done on the cheap after, as part of this Snyder cut type thing, although the original theatrical cut looked like dog shit too in that respect. So I don't know. It's all over the place. I don't know what they're doing. Yeah.
I think we can all agree it's better than what we expected.
It's certainly above what I expected.
To be fair, the bar was set.
The bar was set very low.
Very
very low. Perhaps at the floor, you could say.
There was no bar.
There was no bar. It was a lump.
Yeah.
But you know what? It seems like we have three different perspectives on it. I did enjoy it for what it was, but I didn't see the original. You guys did see the original. And in Andrew's case, I'm kind of picking up that you weren't a huge fan, better, but not great. Colton kind of feels like you're in the middle a little bit. And I appreciate that, that we kind of, I'm wondering where that all comes from. Is it just personal taste in filmmaking in general? Or is it the connection that you guys have versus I don't have to that original cut?
Well, I really, really shat on the original cut. To be fair, I was not a fan at all. I think that would be congruent with what I said previously in the previous episode. I thought it was absolutely terrible. This was a 4-hour movie that I sat and I watched after coming back from Las Vegas. I sat on the couch and I watched it. I watched the whole thing in one sitting.
Oof.
And
Oof.
And I started at I think I started at like noon. And after pauses and bathroom breaks and this and that, I think I ended at like 5:30.
Okay.
It was like
you did at least
I got up to relieve myself.
You allowed yourself some time to breathe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing, like I said, the biggest thing with me is dynamics. Like if you present me a 4-hour movie, I can sit for a long fucking time and watch anything you present to me, as long as there's waves in whatever you present to me. There's no waves in this. It's one note. It's one note throughout the entire thing. And that's my biggest gripe. It's monotonous is what it is. And the characterization is great. I really do think the characterization is great. You have good villains. You have compelling villains, which is good. You have compelling characters, but the problem is the whole thing is set in one fucking note, and it just gets monotonous. It's got you looking at your watch, like, how long have I been watching this shit? You know what I mean? And that's my biggest gripe. I don't want to sound like I'm totally shitting on the movie, because the first part, the what we were given in 2017 or 2018 is a completely different version of this movie, and it's terrible. This is not terrible, it's just monotonous. And it's meandering, and it's and that's, like I said, it sounds like we have 3 different versions of the movie. I think we're going to converge once we talk about spoilers, and I think you'll find that all 3 of us pretty much converge on the same point, or very close. I just go ahead.
And I'll stand with you that at the end of the day, if this wasn't a team up movie, if this was a 4-hour film, if this was this is Batman and maybe, one other character dealing with this threat, and still it was 4 hours, it would have absolutely been a chore. I don't think I would have had the positive opinion I would have had, because you're right that it is monotonous. There isn't there isn't that sense of things are good, now they're bad. Things start bad for the heroes, and they don't get better arguably at all, but they only slightly improve at the end. I think I see the story that he's trying to tell, and I'll get into some of the relationships and what I pulled out of that in spoilers. But at the end of the day, I think what made it palatable for me at this length, at that monotonous tone, was the difference in characters and characters' different perspectives on the events that were unfolding. Because even though the tone stayed the same, the reactions of the characters and their responses to it were, I won't say vastly different, but they were at least
nuanced.
There was enough,
right?
Yeah, there was enough nuance in there that I got a sense of, okay, that this is what's making this long, monotonously toned slog palatable as instead this is a relatively enjoyable film.
Yeah. Well, why don't we go ahead and slide in a recommendation, because we do have quite a bit to get to into spoilers. I think I'm interested to see where everyone kind of lands on this, because I struggled myself in terms of how to recommend this. Our 5-tiered scale, the very top is very yes, followed by yes. Middle ground is totally fine. Just below that is fine. And then the worst of the worst is reserved for the shithouse classification. I think I fully expected it to fall into that shithouse classification walking in the door.
You and me both. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
same.
I don't think that's really appropriate. So, and I don't think any of us feel that way about it from the sounds of it, which is surprising to me in and of itself. That the absolute madman apparently sort of pulled it off in a way. So where do you guys stand? In terms of recommendation for this, how would you? I don't know if it's a difficult calculus for you guys too, but
it
is.
Instinct. It's
anything come to mind?
Yeah. So,
what do you think?
Being that I can't recommend it to absolutely everybody, I don't think it's a culturally important movie to watch. I don't think that it is a total work of art. I don't think that it's any of those things. It's not going to be a very yes. Yes is a little bit much of a recommendation for me, because it's a labor. It's a labor to watch this movie. It's a labor because it is monotonous. I don't think that anybody can watch this movie and say how long I've been watching this movie. I think everybody will question, how long have I been watching this movie? It is a labor to watch the movie, just because of the one note. The melancholy in the movie, it's a lot to bear. This for me is I'm going to say it's a totally fine movie. I'm going to say it has good characterization. There's a lot to bear with the slow-mo. There's a lot of fucking slow motion there. God damn it, there's a lot of slow motion. There's a 10%? Whole 10% of the movie is fucking slow-mo. It's a whole lot. But I feel like the characterization is pretty strong, albeit that the characters are not what you might picture. Like you said, the characters are personified as gods, and they're not necessarily superheroes, or they're not necessarily concerned with the small guy. They're concerned with what it is to be protecting the planet. or this or that. And so there might be a misrepresentation of the characters in this movie. But I do feel like I think that the 4:3 aspect ratio is I can't think of my words. The wine's clouding my mind. I can't think of the words. Gratuitous or you know what I mean? I feel like there's the need to feel super artistic about this movie.
Maybe.
Self-indulgent. That's the best word. That's it, Dan. Thank you. I feel like the 4:3 and the artistic style of this movie is self-indulgent with the slow-mo, the 4:3, the muted colors. I feel like it is super self-indulgent. And I think that's actually the best way to put it. Thank you. But at the end of the day, we have good characterization. I feel like it's I don't think it's. I'm not going to go out to say on a limb that it's well written. I'm going to say that it's decently written. It gives characterization to characters that we've never had previous films to. The humor misses on almost all fronts. I didn't enjoy the humor at all. The things that I found humorous were things that I feel like were probably not meant to be humorous. But it wasn't shithouse, and it was better than fine, I think, because of the characterization. The characterization, I think, was pretty strong. And for that reason, I will land totally fine, right in the middle of this thing that very, very could have been shithouse, because the original was shithouse. Like, down in the shits, way down in the shithouse. So,
okay,
that's my long, lengthy review of this movie.
All right, Dan, where do you stand on the recommendation scale?
Well, I've been thinking about it since I looked at the script. Andrew gave me even more time to kind of process it there. I'm gonna go with the. For me, it comes down to the fact that I like to watch. There are movies I like to watch that I watch just to be fun. You're like, I'm hoping Mortal Kombat will be, like I'm hoping Godzilla vs. Kong will be that. Even if it's shitty, I'll love it. If that's what someone was looking for, I can only give this a totally fine for all the criticisms that Andrew mentioned. The length of it, the lack of variance in the tone. I meant it when I said it wasn't a fun movie, but that doesn't. I don't want to misrepresent that I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed it because I enjoy these types of movies. I enjoy epic stories that bring multiple characters together. And at the end of the day, like Andrew said, the characterization was the strength of this movie. Every major character had a motivation, whether it was well written or not. They had a motivation. They went through some kind of change and came out different on the other side, which is kind of filmmaking 101 in my book. Whether or not that was done particularly artfully, we'll get into as we continue to discuss, but it was at least there. And I also think that part of the message of, not being isolated and needing to come together somehow feels timely. So I won't say that it was emotional in the sense that, wow, the movie as written really tugged my heartstrings, but I think the story, the kind of themes of the movie, given the world that we're in right now, tugged at some of my heartstrings. I don't know if that makes sense. So again, in the sense that, in a biased sense, putting my own perspective on it, kind of looking through the lens that I watched it in one sitting unexpectedly, having expected it to be shithouse. If you want to watch something, and I forget if it was Colton or Andrew, I'm sorry, it said this isn't really a cultural event. It's not a cultural event, but it's definitely a work of storytelling that has a very specific place in our overall storytelling. I'm a big fan of, the idea that if you're going to produce entertainment and the consumers of that entertainment say, hey, this was bad, this is not what we wanted, a smart entertainment producer would say, all right, we're going to try to do better. Zack Snyder at least tried to do better with his cut. He at least tried to say, hey, I'm going to tell a cohesive story, whether or not it was enjoyable, whether or not it was fun. He at least tried to do that. Whereas Joss Whedon gave us, as I hear from you guys, and I hear from anyone else, he gave us I'm going to paint by numbers of what people like to hear right now, or what we think people like to hear right now, and it was garbage. So if you want to experience it, I would say it's a yes. If you just want to watch a superhero movie, definitely falls into that totally fine, that middle of the road. This isn't just a superhero movie, if that makes sense. That's not to say that it's bigger or better than a superhero movie, but it's not a superhero movie in the sense that you're going to get a colorful, fun time. As we've said many times, the color is literally very muted, or black and white. So
depending on how you watch it,
right. So I think for me, I'm falling in between that yes and totally fine, and it really just depends on what you want to get out of it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. My kind of fake recommendation at the outset is, if you were someone that tweeted at one point hashtag release the Snyder Cut, you're probably going to love this, because I think it's exactly what the fans were clamoring for. And so I think the people that really, really wanted this thing are going to be satisfied by it. I think the people that really, really loved Batman v Superman for some fucking reason, and maybe to a lesser extent Man of Steel, are going to love this thing.
You mean you want people that aren't supposed to murder people murder everybody?
Needless destruction.
We'll get into it in spoilers. The funniest part of this movie is exactly that. Anyway, we'll get into it.
Okay, all right, I know what you're talking about. Yes. Those sensibilities are rewarded in this film. So that is to say, I do not agree with any of those takes. I never tweeted that. I hated Batman v Superman. I thought Man of Steel was fine. And I think that this...
It did have a big honky man come out of the ocean.
He lost his shirt a few times.
A couple times.
He did.
Pointed.
He did. He was a big man. He was a big man coming out of the water. Well, that's pretty cool. I aspire to be fucking big honky man.
Hey man, I'll take being Henry Cavill. That'd be fine. My actual recommendation is kind of I'm kind of two minds here. I think, putting aside, obviously I've addressed you if you fall into those categories I mentioned, but if you don't fall into those categories, here's how I think I would recommend this film. If you watch this film as a 4-hour film, start to finish, I think it's fine. I think it's below totally fine, because it's so fucking long and it's a slog and it drags out and it doesn't need to be. It didn't need to be 2 hours, but it did not need to be 4. I'll tell you that. If I think you treat it as a sort of event series or something like that, I mean, it's got 6 chapters. I should rephrase that. It actually really has 7 chapters.
Epilogue.
When I walked in the door, I thought there were 6 chapters. So when it felt like it was about to end and then epilogue came up on the screen, I said, "Oh, fuck you." Was my immediate response. So there are 7 chapters. Bear that in mind.
And the 7th chapter is horseshit, by the way. We can talk about that.
We'll talk about that.
I want to talk about self-indulgent. That was the one part.
Good God.
Wait, what is this?
So I would say, if you treat it as an event series, if you pause after a chapter or a couple chapters, take a break. I mean, I still watched it in the span of a day, but I started in daylight and I finished that doesn't mean anything. You could start it and watch it in 4 hours and still start in daylight and finish without it. But, I probably started, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 o'clock and finished at like probably 1 or 2 in the morning, because it was so drawn out and because it did other things and took breaks. And that was better, because it allowed me a moment to breathe, to like do something else and then come back to it and I'm having a meal, I'll watch a little bit more. I think if you do it like that, it's totally fine, because I find it to be a more tolerable experience.
See, I disagree. Because I think if I would have left it, I wouldn't have come back to it.
I mean, I think after the first few chapters, that's absolutely valid too, because there's a whole lot of nothing for a while, and my assessment of it. And I mean, yes, it was a compulsion, I guess, in a way of like, I want to finish this. Obviously, we're going to talk about it for this episode.
You got to finish it, right?
But I think that, I don't know. To me, there's not I mean, I agree in principle. I don't think each chapter individually has enough to like hook you or anything like that. But I just think that it breaks up the monotony. It breaks up the tone and everything. You know, like I think the kind of things you're feeling, to me, it helped break that up so that I didn't feel swallowed by it the whole time. So it's not really about like it's clearly not designed to be a miniseries. Like there's really no flow between chapters. I didn't think that like, I mean, yes, so like sometimes it ended on like a moment of dialogue or, oh, they said the name of the thing. You know what I mean? Don't count on it, Batman. Oh, they said it, you know? But you know, yeah.
It's so cheeky. It is so cheeky with the way it does its chapters.
Yeah, you're just waiting. Like, when are they going to say it? They're going to. Oh, they did it! They did the thing.
That's the end of the chapter.
You know, they're not evil. They're change machines. Oh yeah, okay, that's it. Yeah, title and text.
Yeah. I just, to me, I just can't imagine having sat through this in 4 hours. I just can't imagine.
Well, I fucking did it, dude.
To me,
I did it.
To me, I think that would have actively lowered my experience, which is why I say that would have been a fine movie. Whereas I think sum total, factoring the shit with the stuff that's okay to pretty solid, you know, to sometimes even good, you know, you might even say. I land it totally fine if you can kind of, I mean, I guess experience it the way you think you're comfortable experiencing it. For me, that's I would say, take it chapter by chapter. And, you know, if you feel compelled to move on and you can roll right through it, hey, more power to you. You got a lot more willpower than I do. So, you know, that's not a bad quality to have. So good on you. But yeah, that's where I stand. Fine, totally fine. It's somewhere in the middle, really, but it's kind of how I feel about it. All right, we got to do the thing now. We got to do full spoilers for Zack Snyder's Justice League.
So for spoilers, I will start off with full spoilers. How about when Wonder Woman busts into that fucking bank with the hostage situation and she fucking blows everybody up? She just blasts that fucking dude out the fucking windows. She totally demolishes that building and blasts that dude out the window. I think she
vaporized that man. I don't think I think that man is completely disintegrated now.
Completely disintegrated. Yes.
The hat survived.
Except for the hat. The hat survived.
The hat survived.
I think that's a teaser.
It wasn't organic material, so it was fine.
I think that was a teaser for future works from him, that the hat will be a major MacGuffin in the next film.
The one thing that stands out, like the one thing that sets the tone for the film, we know that we're going off BVS, right? So we have Batman murdering people and this and that. And Martha, why'd you say that name, Martha? Anyways, there was that. That was the thing that happened. We have Wonder Woman throwing people up against the wall and literally splattering their brains up on the fucking wall.
What is Zack Snyder's obsession with dudes getting thrown in the wall and their brains just getting splattered visibly on the walls? It happens to an Atlantean at one point too. You know, I think Steppenwolf is interrogating to get the mother box location, and that Atlantean gets his brain splattered out, and then he still talks and like has an interaction with him. Like, this dude's dead. This guy has no brains. You know. Maybe Atlanteans have two brains. That's what it is.
Brains on the fucking wall. Brains on the wall.
But yeah, the people in the bank, like every single, like this ridiculous ragdoll physics, she just like bumps into them, they go flying like 300 feet, and their body explodes
in slow mo.
Into blood.
There's another example of the slow mo.
She's basically just Dr. Manhattaning, like, you know, that guy at the end, like and like, but even really the other guys are just being like, pop, you know, just explode, you know, like.
Well, and I will say again, overall, I like the movie, but what was the narrative purpose of this scene?
There was none.
Exactly.
Is what I would say is
because we already know
it makes Wonder Woman into a psychopath.
It's and that was the moment I laughed the most in this movie.
I think the funnier part. And that scene itself is the little girl being like, I want to be like you. And it's just like, you could be anything you want to be. It's like, yes, I want to be a murdering psychopath like you with superpowers. Oh, I can do that. Great. Cool.
I want to splatter all these men against the walls. Yes. That's what I want to do.
And the fact that she blows it up, like they were just trying to bomb the whole thing. What, like you just damaged this like national property or whatever it was. You know, it's like.
But she got rid of
this
the
bank's
bomb.
like this. The next
bomb.
movie is going to be Bank of London v. Diana Prince because they're just like, we're suing you for our property damage. You owe us millions of dollars because you blew up our bank when you didn't need to. You could have just super speeded over to this guy and punched him in the head, and his head would have exploded the same way. You know what I mean? Like. You didn't.
No, you chose to blow up the entire fucking floor.
You know, like
And she only chose to do that when every other mook was already defeated.
It was literally
one
one guy left.
Guy with the bomb.
Yeah,
she just wanted to fucking prove a point, vaporize his ass.
Yeah.
That was fucking hysterical.
So here,
I laughed my ass off. I did.
Here we start with like, you know, my point of like, you can cut most every scene, I think, for like the first hour plus of this movie. Not every scene,
Cut
but
that
like
scene out.
You can cut that whole scene. You can cut that whole scene. I get it. It's an action scene.
It establishes nothing that we don't already know. The whole point was that they already did the whole like, oh, that's Wonder Woman, but she's pretending not to be Wonder Woman. They did that in Batman v Superman, and then she got her own movie, which, from all accounts, is one of the better movies that they put out. So why do they need to establish? Oh, here are her powers. In case you don't know, there's enough. She can vaporize human beings.
You just didn't need it. I mean, like I said, I understand like an introductory action set piece. It's all well,
but
and good.
we need a set line for fucking humor. That's what I thought. I was like, okay, they're setting the humor for this movie, but that's not what they did.
Yeah,
no,
I think the movie set the humor right out the gate with Superman screaming for 5 minutes as his sound waves travel across the entire globe, including all the way to Themyscira.
Yeah, that start had me a little like, oh.
And Bruce Wayne's riding around on a horse for 10 minutes. It's like that could be 30 seconds. Bruce Wayne on a horse could be 10 seconds.
No, we needed 30 minutes of fucking Superman screaming.
No, don't get me wrong. I just watched another movie last night, which is the Cardinal.
Shit.
I believe in show don't tell. They did need to show it. They just said, "Oh, Superman's death was broke of them." Yeah, you got to show it, but you don't need to show it for that long to that level of hilarity.
Yeah, it was just so over the top. And I mean, that whole thing was slow. It was 10 minutes of slow mo in the beginning of, you know, Superman.
You show him dying, and you do quick cuts of each mother box waking up. That gets the point.
It establishes everything.
We don't need the sound waves. Right. We don't need.
It left me. It
they're
literally
just trying to remind you that he's got super yelling power.
It literally left me in confusion because I didn't know if his Superman yelling broke the fucking boxes, or if it was Superman's death that let the mother boxes know. I didn't know until they talked about it because I thought that Superman broke all the boxes with his yelling. That's what I thought. And I was like, this is the most ridiculous fucking thing.
Yeah.
I literally thought that. It was absurd. It was fucking stupid.
All right.
That was stupid.
I think we should keep this through line right now of just the dumbest, the funniest, unintentionally funny perhaps moments. And what I would submit is the Flash slow-mo scene with the car. And we get, I believe, a slow-mo hyper close-up of a sesame seed, first of all, and then we also get one of a hot dog, and I'm just like, what is this?
He puts the hot dog in his pocket to go feed the dogs after his interview.
Yeah, but that was a good payoff because I thought, oh, this jackass just stole a hot dog. That's somebody's line of work there. But no, that there was a payoff to it at least.
At least he fed the animals with the fucking hot dog.
We did. It
was stupid. And there was no payoff with the romance or anything like that. It was
he was a fucking creeper. He's like, oh, in slow mo, let me fix her hair. I'm like, dude, you don't even know this woman. Like, chill, dude. Like, it was weird. It was weird.
They don't. I get that they haven't really shown anything of Flash before this film, but I just think about the fact that she's flying through the air and suddenly gets jerked onto the ground. There's got to be some kind of internal injury still here. Like, she's still dead.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I mean,
probably.
Her brain, I don't know if when he grabs someone, does he pull him into that little quantum realm so it's all safe? I get that. But I'm just thinking, like, okay, so she that still hurts, right? She's still dead.
He pokes the glass. I saw the meme on the internet where it said, Flash pokes Windows because it doesn't work anymore within Windows. It's like broken.
The joke was probably...
I saw that meme on the internet. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just... I'm just going through things. I'm like, that whole Flash scene is not in the Whedon cut, for the record. And it's not there because it's a bad scene. And it's like 10 minutes long because of the slow-mo. And it's just weird and creepy. And like, yes, it establishes that like Flash has like super speed, but like, okay, we get it. He's called the Flash. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. There's just
there's all the lightning everywhere.
Throughout.
There's all sorts of lightning. It was.
Yeah, it's so over the top. Like everything has to be turned up to 11 for Zack Snyder. You can't just have something be fucking normal. Like it's just got to be this most elevated version of the thing possible. And I find that grating after a while. I mean, after 4 hours of it, I found it pretty grating. I'll tell you that. But I just, it's because so the slow-mo is really egregious because it's almost everything. Every time Flash moves, it goes into slow-mo. And like, this is the opposite of what his character does. The character moves very fast. He doesn't move very slow. And like, I get that's a very easy way of telling how that, how they perceive that. But when you do it in every single scene that they're involved in, I kind of forget that they're intended to be fast. You know what I mean? Like we rarely see scenes of the Flash actually just moving fast. It's always slowed down.
We have a precedent for super fast character doing their thing where it is fast and it's shown to be fast. You don't show the fast character moving in slow motion because now I think, well, they're just moving really slow, but everything else is stopped. No, that doesn't get the idea across. I'm thinking of like Quicksilver in Days of Future Past. An effective way to show how a character with super speed can move around and fuck with stuff, but do it in a visually dynamic way instead of a way that has you thinking, oh, here it comes. He's going to grab the hot dog any minute now. Any minute. Here it comes. Oh, he got it. He's got it. Oh, cool. Wow, he's feeding the dogs with it. There are better ways to establish that.
See, there was no sort of dynamic with Flash in this movie. Every time he moved, you're right, Colton. Every time he moved, it was fucking super slow-mo. He never moved. It was never like we had an instance where the Flash just did something because he had super speed. He could have...
You could have seen him just moving like a blur. He should have been a blur at one point and then comes back and it's like, oh shit, he did something, like super fast and we didn't see it. Like, oh, we get it. Oh, he moves fast. Oh, I get it. Like
every instance was fucking slow.
But it's like when the Flash is on screen, he slows the movie to a crawl every time.
I feel like the one time
it's a 2-second sequence, it takes 3 minutes, and it's why? Why is this every time it happens?
The one time it should have been slow should have been the end of the movie.
It should have been the end. It should have been when he's fucking time traveling to save the world. Like that's the most momentous thing. But it's boring at that point because you've seen it every single time to that point. It's like,
bingo.
Yeah, we've seen this before. It's old hat. Like, it should feel like this. I mean, and I think the Flash TV show hit on a very similar thing in a much more effective manner of him like going back and reversing time, basically. Like it was like such a huge holy shit moment, because it was. And here it was just like I guess for the plot, but as it was visually depicted, it wasn't really anything discernible from the rest of the movie. So like I guess there was a lot more blue or something like that, but like, okay,
Well, you know how he chose
we got the
to
people
show it.
rematerializing from skeleton to muscles to flesh
Right.
for some fucking reason.
But that's Zack Snyder's style. He doesn't want to show you his visual style as he wants to show you the vaporizing bodies.
Shit.
I mean, just like every little detail is just like, dude, come on, like stop, like just tell yourself no at a certain point, like. Dude just can't help himself sometimes. All the time.
Well, he's got the budget, so why wouldn't you? Like, I mean, if I could tell somebody I want to rematerialize this person from Dr. Manhattan, I mean, that's what he did. He made Dr. Manhattan every
He Dr. Manhattan to everyone.
everyone.
Dr. Manhattan them. He's like,
And at the same time, it's kind of shitty when I think Flash is great. I think Flash is awesome in this movie because I think he had one of the strongest character arcs, especially with his dad. Like, it was really touching, especially when he went back and like he's running and he doesn't know what's going to happen because he's running back in time. He's running so fucking fast. Flash is fucking cool, you know? And he you know, just like, your son's going to be one of the greats as he's fucking going. And he's going back in time, and it was really awesome. And you could see the steps materializing as he was stepping. And it was really fucking awesome. That was very cool. I really liked that moment for Flash. But then you get the people materializing out of skeletons. And
it takes you out of the moment, right?
It does take you out of the moment. It's like, holy
like,
shit. This is what this looks like, I guess, you know?
That's the inside of Superman. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, you know, and that moment was really cool, but I don't know, man. It's hard. You know, you get like the fucking hot dog scene. I could have gone with Flash saving that girl from the fucking hot dog scene without the whole fucking hot dog scene. You know what I'm saying? You could show the fucking hot dog vendor getting obliterated in the accident, and you could show the accident happening, and then you go, woo, and then you can have the Flash sitting there feeding the hot dog to the dogs. You know, that would have been totally acceptable. But that's not what we got. We got a monotonous fucking thing. And that's the biggest gripe I had with the movie. It's a fucking monotonous thing. Everything's got to be fucking monotonous. Everything. Yeah, so I don't want to monotonate, but I'm monotonating. So I'll stop.
Yeah.
Is monotonating a word, Colton?
I don't think so, but
well, I made that shit up.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, monotonating.
Like I said, sticking with the through line, because I do think there are some legitimate things about this film that are worthy of discussion, that are, you know, good and all that stuff. But sticking with like the bad or the humorous or anything like that, I'm just spitting out what I have that comes to mind. Aquaman's fangirl club in Iceland or wherever that is, like, and the woman like smelling his shirt. I'm just like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? You know, just little weird touches like that. And I'm just like, what purpose does this serve? Why?
Well, it has no payoff. It has no bearing on the rest of the movie. These, you know, it's not like he comes back to save these people that worship him. Again, self-indulgence keeps coming to mind. That's his whole idea of, oh, these people are being worshipped. You know, these are gods. These aren't heroes. They bring the fish. They save the fishermen, and they drink all their alcohol at the bar, and then they leave. It's just more of that kind of like, okay, we didn't need that. That doesn't tell us who Aquaman is. What does tell us who Aquaman is the fact, you know, all the story beats about him not wanting to take up the crown and not be king and all that yada yada. We don't need the creepy clothing theft.
How about fucking God damn it, what's his name? Oh, William Dafoe. William Dafoe. And he throws the spear down. Fucking William Dafoe. William Dafoe in this shit. All I can think of. Henry texted us. A fellow person on the show that we have, a fellow friend. He texted me the fucking Lighthouse quote with William Dafoe. God damn it, William Dafoe. And his hair, his long hair.
His hair looked ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous in this film. Unfortunately, they changed the hairstyling when they made Aquaman because it looked ridiculous here. Man, that was bad.
William Dafoe.
So I do want to bring up, kind of keeping on the, and this is in a different vein, but another thing that was just like, wait, what? The unintentional comedy that wasn't supposed to be comedy. So that scene where they show the flashback, right, of the humans and the gods all, the humans, the gods, and then randomly Atlanteans, just because they all get together and they fight off Darkseid and they steal the mother boxes. And then you got the Amazons, you know, they put it in this temple and they surround it with guards 24/7. And then you have the Atlanteans and they put it in this temple and they surround it with guards 24/7. What do the humans do?
They bury it
in a hole.
Fucking hole. and then walk away.
Sounds like a good idea.
And it wasn't even a deep hole. This was literally, they took 2 seconds. They dug up some shit. And they're like, all right, it's about a foot deep. Let's toss it in. That's fine. That'll be good. And I'm assuming then in that shallow hole it wasn't found until thousands of years later by the Nazis, because of course you have to include the Nazis in there somewhere. But
we got to go full Captain America with it,
right?
Honestly, as ridiculous as it is, it honestly feels right for humanity to just be like, good enough, you know.
Well, and what makes it worse though is that's exactly what Cyborg does later in the movie. He has the mother box, and he says, instead of protecting this by hand, I'm going to bury it in a fucking hole. It's a grave this time, so it's a thematic hole. But I'll give the humanity credit. Devil's advocate, as much as we thought it was funny, they were the only ones that didn't get their mother box found and stolen. That's true. Didn't get their shit wrecked by Steppenwolf to get it until later.
Eventually, it was the last one, I guess, in the sequence.
It was after they fucked with it, but.
Yeah. I think
let's talk about Cyborg.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, why not?
It's the only time I've ever seen football played in such slow-mo.
Good Lord. The slowest football game of all time.
The whole play was in fucking slow-mo. The whole play.
I don't know why I found it funny, but it was like Gotham City University, and I was like, oh, who are they playing? Like Metropolis University or, Metropolis State or something like that? No, they're just playing Wisconsin.
Just
Wisconsin. I'm just like, all right, yeah, fair enough.
I want to watch fucking Zack Snyder direct a football movie. That's what I want. I want Zack Snyder direct a 3-hour fucking football movie. All based on one fucking football.
You want to watch one quarter of football?
That's it. Yes. Oh, it's so fucking ridiculous. Oh, god damn it. Slow-mo football sequence. Slow-mo
should have been used once in this movie. It should have been used when Flash time travels at the end. I think that's the only time where it really was absolutely like a good way to use it.
What about the Amazonians doing the slingshot of the fucking box throughout the land? No?
No. Didn't need it there.
Yeah, so, no. Yeah. Anyways, we have Cyborg. Cyborg's dad was a pretty emotional death. That was pretty shitty.
Yeah.
I felt that one.
Yeah, that was because he had, again, you talk about characterization and characters that had growth. He, his relationship with his dad grew and changed over the course of the movie. And I'll give him credit. He was able to do that without Cyborg having his own standalone movie. You get a sense of, okay, where does he come from? What made him? Oh, his dad it was an
You get the same sense with the Flash too. We haven't had a Flash movie. You get that with the Flash too. The Flash and Cyborg were tremendously improved in this movie. Like, I mean, you could branch out and have their own movies based off of this one movie. I think that's easily said, even with the slow-mo that happened with the Flash.
I mean, I would say compared to the theatrical version, both are significantly improved. I think Cyborg is to a much more significant degree for myself.
Yeah, for sure.
This version of Barry Allen, I just find borderline insufferable. He's just not funny. He's not charismatic. He's not entertaining. I don't get it. I mean, I know you guys obviously feel differently about this thing, but for me, I just do not get it. And I thought the stuff with his dad in prison was a fucking joke. Like, just so poorly written and dumb and over the top. And the whole scene with the ending stuff was just cringe worthy for me. I just found it all, I don't know. I mean, for me, the Flash stuff to me in this film it's better because there's more, and so you get a little bit more to the character, and there's shades of the character that are kind of drawn out. But I just hate it, and I just don't care for it. Whereas I think Cyborg, on the other hand, there was nothing in the theatrical cut, just nothing there, just a monotonous character who's designed to be monotonous, like just very flat. dialogue delivery because he's a robot guy or whatever. And here I think you got a lot of shades to this character. And I think particularly through his father, that's where the characterization for me shined. Aquaman's kind of punted off to the side. There's the dumb shit with Willem Dafoe and Amber Heard and stuff, and it's all whatever, bad mostly. But because we got the other solo movie that kind of dealt with all that stuff, I don't really feel too bad about it. But Cyborg, I think, was really where the biggest heavy lift was done in terms of characterization. I think of all the characters in general. I think even compared to the pre-established, even considering the pre-established characters here, like Bruce Wayne's just kind of Bruce Wayne the whole time through. Superman obviously comes back and is evil for a bit there, but then he's fine. Whatever. Wonder Woman is a murderous psychopath, so clearly we're on a downgrade from her solo film. You know what I mean? So I think Cyborg is really the film. I think the film shines, if you can say that about it, best when it's focused around Cyborg, except for the one scene where he like helped out the woman who was like out of money, and I'm like, cut this scene. It's fucking pointless. This makes no difference to this film whatsoever. It's like, this is the stuff with his family really worked. The stuff with his dad really worked. Like the flashbacks.
Yeah, he definitely didn't need
crash.
The lady with the
Although
the rim.
This film, I'm pretty sure, had 2 car crashes within about 5 minutes of each other. I'm like, that's just bad editing right there. But I did like the Cyborg stuff. So anyway, I said, I know you guys probably don't agree with me on the Flash stuff, based on the previous conversations, but Cyborg I will co-sign for sure. I think was particularly well done in this, and especially in comparison to the nothing that he had before.
Well, and I'm with you though on the I didn't know a lot about Cyborg's character, so I kind of didn't get I wasn't aware of the depth of his power or how much he would come into play in the end of the film. Probably him and Flash arguably had the 2 biggest roles in solving the problem of the mother boxes, I would say, between generating the power and then getting into it and hacking it. But you mentioned that scene with the family where he gets in, he breaks in, gives them all this money. The whole movie, I'm expecting some payoff of, it turns out that they misused the money, or something. Because the whole point of that scene, I thought, was his dad saying, "Oh, you need to be careful what you fuck around with."
Right.
So I'm thinking, okay, that monologue is juxtaposed with him giving this family, and I get that it's just establishing he's a good guy. But it's not like he's giving them his own money. He's just using his power to literally change some numbers and give this person all this money. So I'm thinking, okay, they're going to go with the whole what you wish for suddenly isn't so good anymore. Kind of like what we saw in Wonder Woman 84 to its small credit. But nothing. No, we never hear from them again. They're not the Russian family.
Right.
They don't replace the Russian family to get saved or anything like that. It's just showing that, okay, he's
But it's almost, to me, it was just...
All you had to do is show him in the digital bank with all the numbers. That establishes that he's got control. But nowhere else in the movie does him having access to financial institutions come back. So again, there's probably 4 minutes you could shave off the film right there. You could still get across the character. You could still get across what he's going through and what he has access to without this whole subtext of, oh, he's a nice guy. We know he's a nice guy. We get that. We know he's been through shit. We get that. And he's been Frankenstein into this monster. We don't need all this excess kind of essentially visual exposition of, okay, here's what he did with his power.
Do you get the Dr. Manhattan treatment of the dad within the...
laser
thing.
He doesn't reform. This is when he first disintegrates. Yeah, I think that was fine. I think the dad's sacrifice made sense. It served a very specific story purpose. The characters understood what the story purpose was and followed up on that, so that they could locate Steppenwolf and then have the kind of final battle type thing. Like that all kind of made sense, and I think it worked as like a an emotional through line, and then having coming back to the dad's kind of tape to Victor at the end, I thought kind of worked. I think that worked as kind of like a closing narration. Unfortunately, it was then followed by another 30 minutes of dog shit. But I don't know if you guys want to get into that now or save that for last, because, oh boy. Are
we talking about the third act? We can do it.
Well, I think there's a distinction between the third act and the epilogue. To me, I think when you say the third act, the epilogue is long enough to constitute its own third act, I think, arguably. But to me, I think of the third act as confrontation with Steppenwolf. when they travel to the not Chernobyl reactor and have the kind of final fight there and stuff like that, and then a little bit of the fallout from that. But when I think of the epilogue, I'm really thinking about the nightmare sequence. I'm thinking about Martha Manhunter, and
Your mother's Martha too.
I'm thinking about Lex Luthor and Deathstroke, and
that whole thing. Yeah,
I'm thinking about all that, and all of that was flat out terrible. And I will not hear arguments contrary to that. It was all terrible.
Well, that's
the nightmare sequence particularly was the worst thing in this film, bar none.
Bar none.
Especially because if it was meant to either set up or this was content from the cut story that he was going to tell with, Darkseid shows up, he fucks everything up, and then they have to fix it. But it goes nowhere. It's just, oh, he had a bad dream. Too bad, sorry. And it's just such...
I had a dream. Sort of like a premonition.
Thankfully, they didn't include the "We live in a society" line. Thankfully, that was
They did cut that. That's true.
But
much to the chagrin of many people, but not me.
There was knowing it goes nowhere. There's just no point to it. Why?
So the interesting thing about this is another fun fact, but one that probably was properly kept for spoilers. The whole nightmare sequence, I'm pretty confident, was part of the $80 million reshoots that they allowed Zack Snyder to do in finishing this project. Because Jared Leto was not originally in the film, and I think they brought a lot of the characters back, obviously. Some of it is also like the Martian Manhunter thing is definitely a reshoot because Affleck looks completely different than he does in the rest of the film. He's way more svelte and kind of his face is a lot more gaunt and thinned out, and it's a noticeable difference. Which, to be fair, the theatrical cut also had a noticeable difference of bloated alcoholic at Ben Affleck in the reshoots versus like in shape Ben Affleck with the original cut or the original shoot, I guess. But yeah, the fact that they let Zack Snyder, they paid Zack Snyder. Well, they didn't pay. He didn't take a fee to finish this, but they gave Zack Snyder money to go out and shoot this absolute trash. Is just kind of bizarre because it almost feels like he's pleading to WB like, look, I can make an Injustice movie, just let me do it. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, this is bad. This is all bad. The filmmaking is bad. It's all bad. Jared Leto is, God damn it, he's the worst.
He the fucking worst, right?
How much he is the worst.
Nothing good about his Joker.
And it even felt like there was like a it even felt like he was trying to harbor on he even felt like he was trying to like pull on God damn it, I can't think of his name.
He was doing a Heath Ledger for a bit.
He did he did
he absolutely just cribbed Heath Ledger's line delivery for part of it.
Yes, right?
Like dude, like come on, like
no, it doesn't work. You can't do that.
And also trying to be as terrible, but not quite as terrible, is Amber Heard's attempt at an English accent. You bastards. It was pitiful. Pitiful, I say. Yeah, that whole epilogue was...
It was trash. It was bad.
It was insufferable. And it comes... I would argue, I think the final fight is actually pretty well done. The moment of Flash time traveling, like that's all pretty well done. Like it ends on a pretty good note. I would argue the best part of this film is the ending. Before the ending that they stapled on top of everything else, you know what I mean? Like the final climactic fight, I think it's well done. I think it's okay. You know what I mean? And then to just add another 30 minutes of absolute crap on top of it, it leaves you on the worst possible note. At least it left me on the worst possible note of just being like, okay, and this weird scene with a horrible CGI version of Martian Manhunter coming up and saying like,
yeah,
some people call me
the fucking aliens
Martian
having
Manhunter.
Glowing eyeballs. They have all the aliens have glowing eyeballs. Steppenwolf had glowing eyeballs at the end. What's his Darkseid has whatever has glowing eyeballs. Martian Manhunter's got glowing eyeballs. All the aliens, all forms of human existence, all forms of intelligent life. There we go. I reduced it down to that. Have glowing eyeballs, except humanity. Humanity doesn't have glowing eyeballs.
Well, I mean,
right?
The Kryptonians don't have glowing eyeballs.
No, they do, because
Well, when they
Superman's
do,
got
they
laser
should-
eyeballs.
Lasers, but those aren't glowing. It's lasers. It's different.
They have glowing eyeballs. I don't know why Steppenwolf's eyeballs were going blue. Why were they glowing blue? He didn't do anything with his glowing blue eyeballs.
Well,
Did he?
his glowing puppy dog eyes.
Yeah, his glowing blue. Yeah, he had glowing puppy dog eyes. He didn't do shit with his glowing puppy dog eyes. He got his head chopped off. That's what he did. And his
Kicked
horn.
that shit over into Darkseid's
they
territory
fucking-
and said, "Yeah, eat this,
And he
bitch."
fucking cut his horn off. His fucking horn.
Yeah, he didn't seem
And
two-faced by it.
And Darkseid got an axe in his shoulder, but Superman didn't. That was cool.
Yeah.
This movie was crazy. This had a lot of shit. I'm sorry. I'm starting to get kind of drunk. I apologize.
There's so much packed into it.
Well, and I took
for
issue-
good or for bad, right? But
that epilogue, that god awful epilogue, comes after they have the emotional beat of Victor Cyborg. He rebuilds and when he breaks the cassette tape, I'm like, oh, we're going to hear the rest of that message later. And it was
Right.
satisfying that, okay, yep, he's going to use his magical tentacle powers, he's going to put it back together. We get to hear the rest of his dad's message. And it's kind of the emotional heart of the film, is that idea of, yeah, things are shit, like Andy's-
Melancholy.
They're melancholy, thank you. They're melancholate. But, that whole idea of, you come together, you solve problems, it's going to be shit, but we'll try to fix it, That is kind of, to me, that's the piece of it that tugged on my heartstrings, especially after 2020, especially after the garbage we're still going through with all the injustices out there. It's, there's something to be said about someone who's willing to say, yeah, it's shit, but it doesn't mean we can't still find some common ground to work on.
You need to watch Soul.
That movie's got soul. But then they follow it up with his way of saying, all right, well, I can't actually make the rest of my movies, so I'm going to leave you these dangling plot threads, but they don't fit with this movie, and it just leaves you on an even worse note, because it's worse because it's poorly filmed, it's poorly acted, and it goes nowhere. We know there's going to be no payoff from it. So it's like, I find myself thinking, ooh, I wonder where the story's going to go. And then I remember it's going nowhere, so why should I care? When I really did care about, okay, the characters and the journeys they had throughout this film, it's like they end it. If I ever sit down and watch it again, I'm ending it before the epilogue. That's it right there.
yeah, I mean, I think I fully agree. There are some elements I think that can stay. Obviously, the tape is a huge part of that. I think even just like Bruce buying the bank to get the Kent farm back, like,
Yeah.
that's totally consistent within the parameters of what this film pretends to be, and so that's all well and good. Even stuff like Barry getting the job, fine, whatever. All the kind of stuff that wraps up the individual characters, but all the future sequel baity stuff
Such
is just
garbage.
It's Amazing Spider-Man 2 levels of just dog shit bait, and it's unnecessary, and it really, to me, just feels like a desperate plea of a man saying, please hire me to do more.
Right.
And I know that this film has reviewed well, and I know that we've said some nice things about it, and we've said some not so nice things about it, and made fun of it a couple ways too. Like, I don't think this is the direction that the Snyder, that the DC universe needs to take. Like, Zack Snyder is not the guy to lead the charge. I appreciate that he was able to complete his vision here, and I'm perfectly content to leave it at that. And for the record, Warner is clearly feeling the same way. They did do an interview basically saying, we're happy that Zack was able to come in and finish like his kind of trilogy with between Man of Steel, BVS, and now this. And we're excited about the plans we have moving forward, but he's not really in the shuffle, moving
Good.
forward. And I think that's totally good. I'm fine. Like, yes, he proved his point that his Justice League was better than the crap that they churned out in 2017. And it was an exceptionally low bar to clear, but he did it. To his credit, he did do that. And he showed off that this is what I wanted to do. This is how I did it. This is, I was given the opportunity to do it. And now it's out there. People can experience it. People can stop, resorting to Justice League as this big punching bag type thing. Although now the actual cut is even more of a punching bag as a result. But I'm good. I really am good on
Pump
this.
the brakes.
I'm happy with Andrew. I'm happy to see many more DC films that bring in new voices, new talents, and this increased push for diversity as we saw in the news. I think it's great. I'm very excited to see how all those kind of projects come together. And hell, I'm still excited to see continuations from these characters. Wonder Woman 84 was obviously a disaster, but I don't think there's a reason a Wonder Woman sequel can't work. It didn't that time. I think they needed to start from the ground up in terms of rethinking the story before they actually shot that movie, but it is what it is. But I think the Flash movie, as we talked about, has potential. I think another Aquaman movie could absolutely work. I think a Black Superman movie could work. I guess, I think, for these characters particularly, hell, you can have a regular solo Superman film. Henry Cavill could be a great Superman if you let him be Superman. And Zack Snyder is the type of person that doesn't want, for some reason, the Superman to be Superman. He wants to kill Superman 2 movies in. Like, why? Those are the kind of creative decisions that make me think, okay, fine. You did what you did. You're done. You're done. You know what I mean?
But that's what they get for hiring someone whose good work includes a film deconstructing the concept of superheroes. Why do you want to bring that into an actual superhero franchise? Let him.
And why would you want to do it
lane.
for like that's fine if you want to do I think honestly, if from the outset you had done a pretty traditional kind of approach that Marvel did with solo films from everyone, and then you get a Justice League, and you get like a pretty someone who, even if you got Joss Whedon from the inception of a Justice League project to do it, I'm sure it would have been better than whatever he did, in that 2017 film. But at least it would have felt like a consistent kind of thing, and it would have felt appropriate for these types of characters. And then later on, you're like, let's do a deconstruction, and then we'll make Superman bad and stuff like that. Get Zack Snyder to do that in Justice film, because that's clearly all he wants to do. You know what I mean? That would have been fine, or some version of that I think could have worked, because it would have been in line with the types of sensibilities that I think that he as a filmmaker has. To me, they're just not really consistent with what these characters are traditionally in comics. Obviously, there are variations in comics all the time, but when you're bringing these characters, when you're making the Justice League movie for the first time ever, kind of should do it right. You know what I mean? You should kind of do it in a way that is respectful of the source material, and treats these characters like people kind of hope and expect them to be depicted. And this really still isn't that. Even if it's better, even if it does certain things well, I just still don't think it's fundamentally that. So that's kind of where I still pump the brakes on this whole idea of restore the Snyderverse or whatever as the new hashtag is. And it's like, nah, I'm fucking good. No thanks. But there are some comic booky elements in this that worked. We haven't really talked a whole lot about Steppenwolf and Darkseid and Desaad and all those guys.
Yeah,
and I thought that was comic booky, but a little bit better than. Well, the Steppenwolf design was marginally better than what we got in the.
Yeah, it was way better. Way better.
My only complaint, I liked the armor, the constantly changing armor and all that, and he even had the armor on his horns and all, but then he took it off when he was prostrate. The only thing I didn't like about it was it kind of looked like a skin suit, like one of those green screen bodysuits people wear. It looked a little bit like that. But then I looked at pictures of the original design, and it was significantly better in my opinion. So
way better.
And honestly, the CG was better, for that design, because the Whedon one was almost human looking, but it was still very clearly a CG person, and
it looked very bad,
poorly animated and realized CG version.
It's just the rest of the CG was pretty much.
How does Darkseid? How does he forget? He's like, I'm going to conquer 50,000 places. I'm going to conquer 75,000 places.
A lot of places.
I'm going to conquer all these fucking places looking for this thing. But I'm going to forget that one thing is at the place I was when I got my ass kicked.
He's a busy guy, got a lot of places to conquer.
I guess. It just is.
I assumed that he did not know that the anti-life equation, which is the most comic booky thing, and kudos to them for just going for it with that particular aspect of it. I don't think he knew that was on Earth. I could be mistaken. I think he just knew that the mother boxes were there. He basically lost the mother boxes there because they needed them to take over the planet like he had taken over the other planets.
He had the mother boxes, though. They go to planets with the mother boxes.
Right.
Right? They go to the place with the mother boxes and they convert it to like an apocalypse kind of place. That's what they did.
Yes, that's what they did. But I assume there's only one set of mother boxes, right?
There's only one set of mother boxes, I think. It's like
so I assume that once that happens, they stop. I mean, I assume that he didn't come back because he got his ass fucking handed to him the first time. Darkseid got. I mean, I'm sure that as it was as it was supposed to have happened, it would have been a much longer period. But basically, it was a very short invasion. Like, Darkseid arrives on Earth, and then like, oh shit, Zeus and Ares and company are here, and I'm like, oh fuck, I got an axe in my shoulder. We're bailing. It's like a 30-second invasion, as it's depicted in the film, and it's very funny to me. But I don't know. I assume he went off and conquered other planets without like using the mother boxes. I don't know.
But at some point he would say, like, hey, we're going to go back to fucking Earth and we're going to conquer that shit.
Well, and it's implied that Steppenwolf conquered other planets without them. Somehow.
Right.
I don't know.
It was a little bit... They honestly could have just had...
And he says, fuck it, we'll do the old ways. We'll go the old ways. Well, you tried the old ways before, and... you got your fucking head almost cleaved off. Like, I don't know. It felt kind of stupid. That felt kind of stupid to me. Like, what you're, like, you knew it was there before, and you forgot about it?
What worked was the fact that Steppenwolf at least had a reason. He clearly stated why he was there looking for the mother boxes.
That's what worked.
That was one of the biggest things that Kelly said was like, in the movie, I had no idea why he wanted these fucking things. And it turned him into just generic evil bad guy. Well, now he's a generic evil bad guy with at least some motivation, which is all we needed. But then it's like he took it just a step too far. And maybe it would be something that, okay, well, maybe that could be fixed in hindsight if there were going to be more films. But given that there's no sequels to sequel bait, it has no payoff. And again, so it just kind of comes across as like, what? Why?
Yeah, the Darkseid inclusion ultimately is just sequel bait. Right. It's really what it comes down to.
Right.
That's it.
They could have left... I'm fine that they had him in there. I'm fine that he was included, but all he needed to be was the motivation for Steppenwolf. That he didn't need to have this whole subtext or kind of subplot going on. Yeah,
I mean, even just that like flashback sequence, honestly, probably could have been cut. I mean, it was kind of neat or whatever, and like, oh, there's a Green Lantern, cool. But yeah, it didn't really service anything in this plot that you couldn't have explained in another manner, in a one line or anything like that. And interestingly enough, in the Whedon cut, that whole flashback sequence is there, but it's Steppenwolf that is the one that's leading the charge, and Darkseid is nowhere to be found. So it's just like a really interesting difference that, like, Whedon was just like, yeah, you don't really need this stuff for Darkseid, but I'll kind of reuse it for Steppenwolf's backstory. And Steppenwolf was real bad in that, basically had no motivation. And I think that he was better in this film for sure. And you kind of got what he was going for. But yeah, it still ultimately did kind of take that one step too far, I think you said, and turn into too much sequel bait. And honestly, Andrew, to answer your question, the Wikipedia thing seems to think that Darkseid thousands of years ago was attempting to conquer Earth because he found that the Earth harbors the anti-life equation. So yeah, I guess he just forgot it over a few thousand years. Like, shit, I don't remember where that planet was. I don't know what it looks like anymore. It looks a little different these days. So that feels dumb. That's one of those things where I'm just like,
it's just the one thing that conquers every planet in the universe, and you forget
there must be an explanation that I'm missing with that, or something, because I don't know. And I haven't, I watched it obviously just the once, and I watched it now over a week ago. But yeah, on its face, I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, that does seem kind of dumb, doesn't it? Makes you wonder, but I don't know. I don't have a good answer, I guess, at this point. And you know what?
Right.
I don't care to mount a substantial defense for this film because I don't think it warrants it. It's fine. And it is what it is. It speaks for itself. It's certainly a film that speaks for itself. But I think, yeah. I mean, I think we might have exhausted the spoiler conversation, unless anyone has any other scattered thoughts or more focused thoughts, if they so choose.
4-3 Black and white. That's what I want.
So round 2, black and white.
You know, like, if you want to make a black and white movie, make it all in 4:3. That's cool. But, like...
Don't do it with fucking Justice League? Maybe?
Yeah, you can make it with Justice League. It's fine.
Is it?
No, it's not really. No, it's not really fine. The biggest thing is I want to make a grand, epic superhero movie. That's what I want to do. I'm going to have it go from 4:3 to 16:10, maybe, or whatever. Like, what's the aspect ratio of IMAX?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it's probably, I think it's probably somewhere between 4:3 and 16:9.
Why not have a full fucking frame of, like, when Darkseid tries to take over Earth and you have this and that? Right? That's what I would try to do. Hey, listen, we're going to go from this, like, itty-bitty frame to, like, here's the full battle. Boom. Here it is in full context. Like you were saying, Dan,
Right.
It's one thing to use aspect ratio to try to convey your story.
But when it serves...
That wasn't the case.
I think one of my favorite films is Grand Budapest Hotel by Wes Anderson. And I don't mean to make this a Grand Budapest Hotel podcast, but he specifically has 3 aspect ratios to kind of nest, because it's a story within a story within a story. And each time period of that story has a different aspect ratio. That's how you use aspect ratio to tell your story. WandaVision did it by spreading it out for the, or widening it up. I forget how they used it, but when they came out of the Hex into the real world, there was a reason for it.
Yeah.
Don't
that was cool.
just do it because, and I get the argument of, well, we did this because we wanted to show more of the vertical bits of the frame instead of cutting it out. I kind of get that, but I'm like, why not just use the tool that's available instead of saying, well, no, you need to watch it my way. That's where that hubris comes in for me, is still. In spite of my redeemed opinion of the film and what he did with it, that's one of those things that still feels like, yeah, it didn't need to be that way. I mean, it's cool when it's used for a reason.
It's stupid. It's all stupid. Just... You could have done so much more. Like, if you want to go that way, that's cool. But use it to your leverage. You know what I mean? He didn't use it to his leverage. He used it stupidly. That's what I would say. Zack Snyder, that was a stupid move. I wish I could be over his... I could be over Zack Snyder's shoulder.
Be the angel
Hey,
on
dude.
his shoulder saying, don't do that.
That's
Hey, dude.
stupid, dude.
Maybe don't. Maybe don't, dude.
Maybe don't.
I know you could.
That's it.
You could, but
Who directed all the it's not Zack Snyder. It's who am I thinking of?
Directed what?
The fucking Transformer movies.
Michael Bay. Yeah.
Michael Bay. As badass as that looks, dude, don't do it. All I can think of is Michael Bay on his fucking knee with the fucking camera over his shoulder, the explosions. Fucking Michael Bay. Anyways, I lump Michael Bay and Zack Snyder in the same fucking group. That's what I think.
That's not inaccurate in my in my assessment. So, all right, other
moving
thoughts,
on.
Other thoughts. Are we good on Zack Snyder's Justice League?
we're good.
We could be here
we
can do another hour if we want to get up to the full runtime of it. If you guys want, no, I'm just kidding. All right. Well, Dan, this is the first time that you've been part of a regular episode, so this is the part of the episode where we catch up with everyone else and see what everyone else has been up to. I can give you a moment if you want to, think on things, but if you're ready, I'm ready to kick it over to you. If you want to talk about any TV shows, movies, games, or anything you've been up to recently that you want to shout out?
I was telling you guys before we started recording that my girlfriend and I just finished, for the first time in my life, to my shame, watching Avatar: The Last Airbender. It is phenomenal, and I know I was razzing you a bit from the recording you did a couple weeks ago for the Raya episode about it, but it really is good. We're going to try starting... we're trying to start Legend of Korra now, knowing that it's not quite as good, but it has me excited to see what else they do with the Avatar universe, with this whole Avatar Studios thing, because that's a story that definitely lends itself to anthology-style storytelling. Other than that, I'm really just we've really been consuming a lot of animation. My joke right now is that my tastes in entertainment are reverting back to like a teenage state. I'm playing Breath of the Wild for the first time. I'm watching Avatar and all these other cartoons. I'm wanting to get into some more anime and stuff like that. So it's just, I think the stress of life has just pushed me back into this nostalgic state where, give me animation.
Have you seen Akira, Dan? Have you seen Akira?
I don't believe so.
Oh, that's a good one. Gotta watch that one. It's like quintessential anime.
Well, the one that I have that I really I've been wanting to try, because I'm a big fan of hard magic systems, where like there's magic in the world, but it's bounded and it kind of has there's rules to it. And Avatar nails that, for the record. But oh my god, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood or Full Metal Alchemist.
Okay.
I know those are both on Netflix right now. I've been really wanting to give those a shot.
It's live action Full Metal Alchemist if you want to really give that a shot.
I've heard as well. I don't know.
Live action adaptations of anime always go well, as we know. So
no, that was the other thing I've been up to. Literally, the night before recording, it's end of March. We Kelly and I said, you know what, we're gonna watch, now that we've finished the real Avatar: Last Airbender, we're gonna watch the M. Night Shyamalan film.
Oh boy,
there are movies, and I don't want to turn this into an M. Night Last Airbender podcast, but there's a movie we could shit on if you ever want to. Call me, because there are movies that are good, there's bad, there's so bad it's good, but then there's just literally a lesson in how not to make a film.
2 hours of pain.
I would rather watch the Snyder Cut twice in a row than watch the 90-minute. So that's 8 hours of decent but slogging.
In color and then black and white back to back.
Right. I would rather watch that than watch the 90-minute M. Night Shyamalan Last Airbender, because oh my god, the editing was terrible. The filmmaking was terrible. They constantly narrated things that should be shown, and my takeaway was, a 20-episode Western anime is not meant to be a 90-minute kids movie. It was never going to work. So, but yeah, that's been my life. Getting ready to go back to school, all sorts of other fun stuff coming up. So,
yeah, fun is a word for it, certainly.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right. Well, very cool. Andrew, what's been going on in your neck of the woods?
So we went and looked at a wedding venue, as I am a fresh fiance.
Soon to be Mr. Meadows.
Soon to be Mr. Meadows, yes. And Colton, I have a question for you.
Okay, putting me on the spot. Let's hear it.
Will you be the best man at my wedding?
Of course, I will be your best man. There's no doubt. There's no question that there's no other answer. So yes,
excellent,
absolutely.
So there is that. We have looked at wedding venues. We think we may have found the wedding venue, but we have told Sarah she needs to go to the other places to see. Just to
due
see.
Diligence.
That's it. But she has a couple more to look at this next week, and then she'll make a decision based on that. Other than that, American Idol. American Idol's been pretty great. I like American Idol a whole lot. Get the musics. Big one. Started Invincible.
Oh yeah. There was a text thread about it. Good so far. There was 3 episodes that dropped the first week that it came out. So you watched all 3?
So I watched all 3.
Cool.
That first episode is holy shit. That's all I can say is holy shit. Like, Sarah was coming back from somewhere. I think she was working or something. So I was at home watching it by myself. And then she wanted to take me out to dinner afterwards, which is great. But all I could find myself thinking about was fucking Invincible. Oh boy, that is a big oof. Like, you just Like it's uncomfortable. I mean, to be honest with you, it's really brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts out like you kind of get sentimental about it a little bit. Like I was sentimental about it, you know, and then big fucking turnaround in a big way. And it just, I don't know, it hit me really heavy. Like it was hard to watch. Honestly, it was very hard to watch. Super brutal. Goddamn, it was very brutal. Very brutal shit. And then even like episode 2 was super brutal. Like it's just it's a rough show. But it's kind of cool at the same time. Like it's got some Hero Academia in it. Good anime if you want to watch some anime, Dan, is Hero Academia. It's really good. That one will probably make you cry a little bit. That one's pretty good.
I do like consuming entertainment that makes me cry at this point.
Yeah, My Hero Academia will probably make you cry, especially in that first season. It's pretty strong.
I need something to fill the hole that the last 2 episodes of Clone Wars left in my heart. I need something that'll truly destroy me emotionally.
Yeah, so Hero Academia will probably do that. This one's just real brutal. But it's really good. I'm really excited. I had to look up when it would come back on. It turns out my Friday nights are now composed of the Falcon and Winter Soldier and Invincible. That's what my Friday nights are now.
Nice.
And I will be finishing this show to its conclusion, as well as Winter Soldier and the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Yes, exactly. I'll be watching both those shows every Friday night. I'm really digging that one too. You get like just quintessential Marvel action, which is pretty cool. In that movie or that show. I think that Bucky Barnes and Falcon, which is Mackie, what's his name? Anthony Mackie. Yeah, Anthony Mackie and Bucky Barnes are great. I can't think of Bucky Barnes' real name, but he's cool too.
Bucky Barnes' real name is Bucky Barnes. Falcon's real name is Sam Wilson. If that's what you're looking for.
Exactly.
Okay, we're good. We got there.
Yeah. But they're 110% in what they're putting in. I'm really enjoying it. And as far as movies go, I don't think I've really watched anything other than shows. It's been catching up from shows since I got back from vacation, and it's good to come back to some shows. So we also started watching This Is Us again. We're on the
like a newer season.
We're on it. Yeah, exactly. So we caught up to the point where they weren't putting anything else out until like after we got back from vacation. So this is like 110% fresh. This Is Us, and I don't know. I'm still about it. I know that there was some shade cast upon This Is Us at a certain point. I can't quite remember when. I think it was when Randall became a congressman or a senator, or I think he's a fucking, I don't know what he is, but he's doing like public work or some shit. And I still like it. I think it's good. I think it's well casted. I think it's well acted, and I enjoy the just the nuances of family drama. And I think it's a good show. I really like it. It makes me cry 80% of the time. And if you want to watch something to make you cry, I'm pretty emotional. I cry American Idol just about every time I watch American Idol. American Idol makes me cry, and I don't know, makes me feel nice. Well, I don't know if it makes me feel nice, but it makes me empathetic. I'm an empathetic man, and I feel those lows and those highs. So all those things make me feel. I like to feel. So that's that.
Well, I don't know how I follow that up, but I guess I'll offer a couple things and
West Wing?
make a pass at it. I have been watching West Wing, but I was gonna at this point with the West Wing, I'm just waiting until I finish the seasons before I really kind of count it. So I think we're about halfway through season 6 right now. So stay tuned for a couple weeks or whatever, and I'll talk about that. Don't you worry. I did finish season 2 of Cobra Kai, which is not the newest season. I'm still a full new season behind, but I finally finished season 2, which aired 3 years ago, maybe longer than that.
Did it make you feel?
It made me feel pretty hype, I guess I would say. Dan, have you watched any of Cobra Kai? Are you?
I have not, because when it came out, it was on the YouTube Plus. Now that it's on Netflix, I've been wanting to.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. Highly recommend.
We watched season 1, covered season 1, and I think we did a trial to watch it on YouTube. And then when season 2 rolled around, I'm like, fuck it, I'm not going to do another trial, whatever. But now that it's on Netflix and then the 3rd season dropped, I kind of was like, I want to go through and catch up. So I finally caught up to the YouTube stuff, but so I'll avoid specifics because I think it's worth watching. At a bare minimum, I'll say it's worth watching. It's a very, very fun show, and very well done for what the concept of it is, and especially for those first 2 seasons being YouTube shows or whatever. I think that the quality is there. The end of season 2, it ends with some fights and stuff, as you might expect from a show of its caliber and design. But it got, the first season is very much a Karate Kid redux. Season 2 kind of does its own things, and then there's a big brawl that kind of happens at the last episode of season 2 that was just chaos, and I loved it. It was very, very fun. So I enjoyed that. So I think it must have been a brutal wait for those people that watched that, and then it took 2 or 3 years or whatever for the Netflix season 3 to come out. So I'm excited to roll right into the new season. I think it's very. I'm excited to see where it goes, but I really enjoyed it. I think it's really fun, and I do think that Ralph Macchio and William Zabka, Daniel and Johnny, respectively, are really, really good as the now grown up versions of themselves from the Karate Kid franchise.
How great that they got those actors back.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
How great that they said, you know what, yeah, we got nothing else going on. We'll come back and reprise
this is a mild spoiler, but season 2 also brought back there was an episode where they brought back a lot of people from Cobra Kai too, and I thought that was a really good episode. It was kind of a heartfelt episode with Johnny reuniting with kind of old buddies from Cobra Kai for a very specific reason, and I thought that was very well done. And it was cool to see all those guys. I'm they all look older, obviously, but it was good. So yeah, I recommend Cobra Kai. I think it's very good. It's very fun, and I'm excited to see where season 3 takes it. And eventually, I'll be caught up on it and waiting for season 4, like all the other schmucks in this world. So the only other thing that I did, and I actually had done it before we recorded our last episode, and I forgot to put it on there. I finally busted out the PlayStation VR. It had been collecting dust for God knows how long, at least a year, probably longer. And I had bought Star Wars Squadrons last Black Friday.
Oh, tell me!
And I hadn't done anything with it, and Anna was at my place, just working on a paper or something like that. And I had been playing The Last of Us for a while, and I was like, I just finished a chapter. I want to play something else, and I took Spider-Man Miles Morales out of the case, and I was like, you know what? I got a better idea. Put it back in the case. Pulled Star Wars Squadrons off the shelf.
No.
Took the plastic wrap on.
Nice.
Chucked that thing in. Cleaned off my VR headset so that it wouldn't, just coat me in dust when I put it on. And I took a dive. I got into the cockpit, and oh man, it's so cool. It's so cool. I mean,
That's
the PSVR is a lower quality, VR headset than a lot of the others that even probably what you have, Andrew. I think you have the Quest. Is that right?
Yeah, I think
or whatever it is you have.
Whatever, yeah.
It's a lower quality. You got the screen door effect and stuff like that. But honestly, VR is such a cool technology, and especially when you come back to it after having not used it for that long, it was awesome. And when you're doing it to the backdrop of Star Wars, which Star Wars VR is the dream. You know what I mean? I know there's the Vader Immortal thing, which I haven't touched at all.
Oh my goodness.
But this was really cool because it's full on just piloting a ship first person, and you can choose the ship. So I tried all of them out. The X-Wing is awesome. The A-Wing is awesome. Even the TIE Fighter is just really cool. But
does it really move?
The only thing that I think that it doesn't quite capture is the sense of speed, I think, with some of them. You know, like you almost need more like aerodynamics and like how you do it, because like the visual, you know, it's all there, the audio is all there, but you know, you don't quite have like the pull that you would otherwise. You know, VR can't replicate that. You know, it can make it can make a controller rumble a little bit, and that's about all you get. But it's, you know, it's pretty much as close of approximation as you could have without literally being in like a simulator, you know, or going to Disney or whatever, you know. What I mean?
That's cool shit. Yeah.
But it's very cool. I'm not good at the game, but I understand it's kind of hard, you know, and it's designed to be like a pretty realistic simulator for something that's obviously very much based on something fantastical. But it's very cool. I kicked on the story mode for like 2 minutes, and like, you know, it was very cool. It like started with like the destruction of Alderaan. I'm just like, oh, this is cool. I wanted to test it out and make sure that it like played okay in VR and didn't get like motion sick or whatever. But I think once I get a little bit more of a grasp on the controls, then I'll feel more comfortable doing like the story mode and stuff like that. So I intend to revisit it before long. So yeah, it's really cool. Obviously, it's restrictive if you don't have VR technology to do it, but you know, if you have a friend or whatever that has something like that, and I think Squadrons might be on PC, so I don't know how the Quest works with like, I don't know if you can hook it up to the PC.
Oh, you
if you definitely have the technology
can
or whatever.
Yeah,
but I'm sure you can. So yeah, you know, it's worth it. It's worth it to check it out. So I'd recommend it. But that's it. That's what I got. So, I think we can wrap up our episode. A little shy of 4 hours, which is good. We didn't want to reach the length of Zack Snyder's Justice League, but we did definitely surpass the length of Joss Whedon's Justice League. But that's okay. It really wasn't that long. So, thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, please spread the word. If you want to support us on Patreon and get early access to all of our regular episodes, timed exclusive access to any bonus episodes that we work on in the future, you can go to patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat. That would be much appreciated. It's $2 a month that would get you access to all those good things. And there was a little fun nugget that happened in this episode exclusively on the Patreon episode. So I'm just throwing that out there. So I won't tell you what it is. You'll just have to go to the Patreon to find out. Our website is watchreviewrepeat.com. If you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at WRRPod. If you want to like us on Facebook, just search for Watch Review Repeat and like our page that way. Questions, comments, or suggestions, you can send those our way, watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. And in fact, as I say that, I recall that we have some thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League that I completely blew through. So I'm going to track those down and read them out loud. Bruce Brown writes in about Justice League saying, I thought it was pretty darn good. Why the fuck, he said it as WTF, why the fuck would they release the crap that they did versus something so much better? 4 hours was long, but I was entertained throughout, and I thought it was just really well done. Wonder Woman was totally kick-ass awesome. Where was that Wonder Woman in 1984? She was freaking awesome. They were all pretty good. Aquaman, kind of lame, honestly, but hey, my man, it's all good. I give it an A- compared to the D- it got before. And then Jordan Brown chimed in and said, 4 hours, so they would have had to cut, an hour 15 to an hour 30 at a minimum. The epilogue sucked and set up a shitty sequel I have no interest in ever seeing, but generally agreed. So there you have a couple more thoughts on Justice League. So you want to chime in on Justice League? watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. There you go. Intro and outro track, Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Big thank you, Dan, coming out and joining us, talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League. We made a promise. We made a commitment to an idea, and we fulfilled that. And I think it was very rewarding. So thank you for hanging out with us for a few hours tonight.
It was an honor. Thank you, guys. I hope you'll have me back again at some point when the time arises.
Of course. So our next episode, we'll be talking about Monkey. We'll be talking about Godzilla versus Kong, which it's reviewing pretty okay right now. I gotta say, so I'm very excited about it. It'll be on HBO Max, and there will be some kaiju versus giant gorilla fighting. So I think it'll deliver on that front. So I'm excited to talk about it, see what it delivers for us. So look forward to our coverage of that. And until then, Andrew will say,
Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Laters on the Menche.